WN324.zil. This is Thursday, the 11th of July, 2024. We're just having a few technical problems at the moment, getting over to our other channel on Rumble, which I'll try and figure out. But this is Paul English Live. I'm here every Thursday at this time. And welcome to the show. We're here for a couple of hours. Let's get started. Welcome everyone. I was just fiddling with my technical trousers there. We've had a bit of a Rumble connection problem, but I'm getting some messages through that the Rumble feed's okay, so that's fantastic. And welcome to the show. The British summer's actually started. Well, it started this morning, but I think it's probably just ended about 10 minutes ago. But that was great, wasn't it, everyone? Had a cracking time with that? I know I have. And you can always tell when things are having a slightly fraught start, and I play the music for so long like that. So anyway, it's good cover, isn't it? You know, I could readjust my broadcasting trousers there in the background. So I understand we're coming through loud and clear. Hi, as I said at the beginning, welcome. This is Paul English Live. We're here on WBN every Thursday, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the UK, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. US Eastern Time. And England has been basking in sunshine for the last 35 seconds, or at least parts of it have. Actually, I've had a wonderful day here. But we've had a lot of November weather since the very, very exciting general election last Thursday, which everybody's completely forgotten about, apart from the people that won, and they can't stop talking about it. We're going to be doing a little sort of review on that, or at least I am. And please feel free to join in. And as I've said before, the best way to join in round here is if you do head on over to Rumble. You'll find the link to the Rumble studio over at paulenglishlive.com. So if you want to chat, you want to talk with the other Rumblers and Grumblers at times, and disassemblers and all the other sorts of interesting types that we get into the chat, and a big shout out to everybody in the chat. Then please do, because we do follow the chat as the show's going through, and I'll give you shout outs and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things worth mentioning right now is I've had such a sort of odd little week. I've not even prepared any music for today. How tragically inept of me is that? But this opens up the opportunity for you wizards of music. So if you've got any tracks that you want to suggest for today, and don't make them obnoxious, otherwise I might not play them, but anything that you think would be worth hearing, you know, into the logos of everybody else here, please put the suggestions into the Rumble chat. That'd be fantastic. Maybe lots of people are on holiday. I don't know. Do people still do holidays? Maybe they do. I haven't had one in ages, although on a personal front, I just want to tell you a little bit about my week before we get stuck into some very interesting articles, and I didn't know quite what this week's show was going to be about. But from the articles I've managed to sort of pick up over the last 25 minutes, because I've literally only had that amount of time for this week. You're all getting worried now, aren't you? There's just tons of things, obviously, about the election from last week. And I want to talk about it simply before it goes down the memory hole, because, everybody can only remember things for like 48 hours, including me, if you're following the media cycle, which I tend not to because it's very bad for your health. But also there's quite a lot about race, and I'm going to tap back into this football thing that's going on. You will have heard me talk about this before, but I've had some very interesting exchanges today on X, nay Twitter, about it, and there's some wonderful comments. And one of the guys I follow on Twitter is a guy, an English chap who's done a lot of videos, although I don't think he's done any recently. Very calm, steady, analytical voice. Wonderful things, called Way of the World. You may have heard of him. If not, I would recommend, if you make use of Twitter, and I'm not a great Twitterist or an Xist or whatever they're called. I've got a channel there purely to really advertise this show, and then every now and again I get the urge and I write a few comments and thinking, ooh, I better not post that yet and just calm down a bit. Do you ever do that? You say, I go, oh, that's a little bit strong, Paul. Oh, we don't want that. But there's been some excellent posts by him over the last couple of weeks with regards to what's going on with this so-called international football tournament. And there's also been a lot of comments over here about racism. Would you believe it? Isn't that a surprise? Courtesy of the BBC and the BBC pundits and all this, that and the other, due to the racial makeup of the so-called England national side. As many of you have probably heard me say here before, it's not a national side, and I've had some good interactions today. But before, I've got Paul Beaners lined up as well, and the skulking, lurking GVN crew are somewhere in the shadows there, out on the things. I'll bring Paul in a minute or two when I've just said a few things here. My week's been slightly disrupted because, although there's been some wonderful bits as well, it's been hectic. My wife, she's unwell, as many of you may well know. She's very happy all the time. She really is, and she smiles, but she suffers from mental problems, dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever it is. That's what she got. She unfortunately contracted this at a very early age, as far as we were concerned. I mean, there's never a good time to get this, but she did. And unfortunately, Monday was a very difficult day for us, such that we had to take her down to hospital, where she still is and where she's going to be for a few days more. And before you all get anxious and say, watch it, Paul, and you're right to say things like that, where I live, the local hospital here, not that I'm sort of do a travel guide on hospitals and the quality of them, but I have to tell you, I rate it quite well. It's got a very good staff atmosphere. They're very good. It's large, but not so large as to become impersonal. They've got all the gear and they've got all the ideas, so they're pretty good. And she's been looked after really well. And I went to see her. I go every day to see her. I didn't know quite what I was going to be up to. Saw her today. She's laughing and smiling and always in a good mood, even when things are difficult. So that's good. And the staff came up to me and they said, "Is she always like this?" I said, "Oh yes." Tiring, isn't it? Isn't it tiresome? No, she is. She's always like that. So there you go. You got a little glimpse into my life. But because of that situation, they've told me that she's going to be there for probably another week. All for good reasons. They want to sort of really get her fattened up, like for Christmas, and that's actually a good thing, believe you me, because she burns food like a marathon runner from Ethiopia. She's just like a whippet most of the time, which is not her true state, but this is all to do with her condition. So they're working with her really well, and I don't get to do some of those intimate duties that you can imagine a person in my position has to do. And I felt very sort of mercenary and cavalier about it today. And I said, well, I can go away and you're going to look after all that. And they went, yeah. And I thought, wow, this is quite a thing. I'm sure this means nothing to you if you've never cared for someone, but if you have, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. And I hope you never have to. Right? I'm not saying it's not without its rewards and everything, but overall, you wouldn't choose it, would you? I think we'll have a bit of illness and I'll learn how to become a carer. No, you wouldn't actually choose that, but sometimes it chooses you or chooses your situation and it comes into your life. So that's been kind of going on with me, and it's taken me away really from doing any research, or at least I thought it had. But as I was just saying there at the beginning, quite a few little things have come through. So we've got. I'm going to look at the football thing again. I can't let it go. I do feel like a dog with a bone with that one, and I'm probably going to say things that you may have heard me say over the past few months whenever we've come onto this topic. In fact, we probably did even just a couple of weeks ago. But I think it's got so much mileage in it for everybody, and I do mean everybody, apart from one small group who, for now, we will call FIFA. The International Federation of Football. For them, my approach, which I hope may become your approach, and I sense it might well do that, is not good, because they are the culprits in this. This is a politically occupied organisation. It always was, full of people taking bungs. Remember Sepp Blatter? Now, you don't have to remember Sepp Blatter. It's not. This is not a quiz show, but Sepp Blatter was always on the take. At least that was the impression you got from the press. And I think later on in life, it turned out that that's exactly what was going on. So he was taking bungs from all sorts of footballing associations around the world that wanted to be part of FIFA to get into the World Cup or whatever it was. It's not even worth knowing the details, really. And that organisation has morphed into, as far as I'm concerned, a joke. And I've mentioned here before that there is, in my mind, and certainly in my experience, although if you're young and have only been watching international football, say, for the last 20 or 30 years, you won't really know what I'm talking about, I guess, unless you've seen archival footage. But I can tell you that, I can't tell you anything, but I can share very sincerely that footballing World Cups, when they were competed in by true national teams, blow the current situation out of the water. They were absolutely amazing. They were really, really amazing events, and there wasn't any racism. There wasn't any. None. Some of you may remember England back in 1966. I'm just going to give you just one example. This is very famous, actually. A team turned up from Korea. I can't remember if it was North or South. It can't have been North, can it? Because they were all commie by then. They probably wouldn't even allow them to play football because there's not enough equality in football. You see, teams keep on winning. They don't want that. They've been playing football in North Korea. I suppose all the results have been 0-0 or 1-1 or something, but you had to have a draw all the time. I'm being silly, of course. So I guess it was South Korea. Anyway, they hadn't got a lot of experience in international football, but the English crowd just took to them like hotcakes, as it were, and they were applauded everywhere, and they played out of their skins. They didn't win. No one expected them to win. Boy, did they enjoy themselves, and boy, did the crowd too. And there's been lots of little moments, or there were, like that throughout the history of that tournament. And it's important to get this across because this situation with the team called England, and more prominently over the past 10 years or so with the team called France, is that it is made up of people from different races. And Way of the World put a post up earlier today. I think it was earlier today. It must have been. And there's a picture of the results from yesterday's match between the team called England and the team called the Netherlands. And they have to be addressed as this because both of them on the pitch were fielding teams that had people from more than one race. And the minute you do that, it doesn't matter what nation you are, the minute you've done that, you haven't got a national team. You haven't got one. And I got into an interaction with a chap there who, certainly from his photo ID on X, is of African descent. I think that's the best way for me to describe it. Nice guy, very civil sorts of conversations. He was a bit bemused by certain things. And he made a comment at one point about the fact that it's, anybody, the gist of it was that people can play for nations, it's got nothing to do with race. And so I began a little sort of interaction where I said it's absolutely got everything to do with it. And one of the comments he put in was, he said, well, the national side represents the nation. He said, these football teams represent the nation. This is not true. They don't do that. That's not what they do. National teams are the nation. They are it. This is the difference. You say, oh, it's not a big point. It's a massive point. It's why there's this huge element of real actual truthful sort of football, for want of a better phrase, and that's a terrible one, isn't it, taking place. And you don't have to be interested in football in this. In fact, honestly, most of the matches are like watching paint dry. In fact, maybe watching paint dry, if it's your own house, is actually more interesting, I suppose, because at least you go, oh, there's me paint drying. They're not particularly edifying experiences. A lot of sort of professional negativity. And most of the teams, certainly England, for most of this, or the team called England, have played as if they've been frightened to actually lose the match and not actually win it. And the managers come under a lot of criticism, and apparently there were some tears today and all this, and now he feels justified in this, that and the other. All of this is complete bunkum, really. It's just bunkum. So he said to me, did this guy in this little Twitter exchange, he said, so I gave him a definition of a nation, which is useful for us all to have. And he said, well, where do you get that from? I'd need to see your sources on that. So I gave him two. I gave him Chambers' dictionary, which I've probably mentioned here is the one I go to all the time. And you can find it online, and it's excellent. But also, it's very interesting with dictionaries and words that they are changing subtly the definitions of words. So for American listeners, you'll be very pleased to know that I also went and looked for old dictionaries online. Why would you want to do that, Paul? Because they're better. That's why. It's before our language has been interfered with by the Marxist manifesto to hijack words. And I said for our American listeners because I found an old Oxford one, which was pretty good, but I found a Webster's 1913. And if you ever want to use it, you can. The URL for it is websters1913.com. Websters1913.com. And I want to read out to you what he said because I posted this to this chap. I've not heard back from him, and it wasn't an argument. This is not like, oh yeah, I won an argument. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in, can we discuss things so that the truth rises up? It doesn't always, does it? It can be tricky. Nation, here, from Webster's 1913. Let me give you a bit of this. Some of it's in Latin, so I won't read that out. I know there's thousands of Latin people here listening who read Latin all day long. But it says this. It says, see kin and kindred. Ethnol, it says ethnology, a part or division of the people of the earth, distinguished from the rest by common descent, language, or institutions, a race, a stock. And I think in the Chambers one it says a breed. How much clearer do you want to get? You can't get much clearer. There's also a quote here there was a quote later on from Revelation in the Bible. It says this. This is Revelation 7, verse 9. See, we've gone biblical, and we're only in 20 minutes here. It says, all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. So anybody that is saying that you can actually put more than one breed of people into a national football team is not talking truth. You can't. It's not even an argument. You can't do it. It's never, ever been done. The only time you ever get national teams, it doesn't matter what sport it is, or national projects, is when everybody in the team is of that nation. So, and I've mentioned before, Cameroon, who were one of these sides a bit like Korea back in I think it was the 80s or something. They played a very physical, tough and rapid, sort of simple game of football. It was very effective. I think they got to the quarterfinals or something, where they gave England a run for their money, but then everybody does, I suppose. They were cherished by the crowd. People didn't go around saying, oh, look, it's all full of Africa. Of course it's full of Africans from Cameroon. That's what we want. That's exactly what we want. It's brilliant. Really good stuff. Real sense of sort of joy about everybody doing things their own way. And so football really is, I think, there's probably other sports as well, but it really is a fantastic microcosm of the problem that we face. Football has become a political football. It has been hijacked. And a lot of people are now seeking to lecture what they term white racists in England about what you're going to do now that now that England, this is how they phrase it, is winning these matches and causing me to choke. Good grief. Good grief. Hang on. Let me grab a glass of broadcaster's water. Here we go. Oh, that didn't help. No, that's fine. It did help. are banging on about how do you feel? I bet the racists are all happy, but they can't conceal their joy. Well, it's an irrelevant joy if they're having one, is my hard and fast stance on this, because England couldn't win or lose the match, and as of last night, neither could the Netherlands. Anyway, I don't know whether this guy's going to come back to me on Twitter. I hope he does. These things tend to peter out, don't they, over a few hours, if you've ever been part of these things. And as I said, I'm not a big Twitterer, but it was a civil exchange. There were many other people chipping in with points which I think are kind of off point, not making too much sense, because they're getting wrapped up in the emotion of winning the match and this, that, and the other. And I got a couple of likes on these comments, particularly from I've forgotten his name now, Cockney Geezer or somebody like that, who liked both of them, because I was simply trying to point out that we all want, including this chap of African descent, he might not know it yet, but I bet he wants this. We want to see it as it's supposed to be, as it used to be, because it was better. Football has not progressed. I mean, it has in terms of its technical skills and the fitness of the players. But in terms of the connection and the cultural relevance to each of the nations that we're playing, it's been completely disassembled. And I've mentioned here before that all of the players in this team called England, all of them, are having a great injustice done to them. Every single one, as are the fans, even though the fans appear to be clueless about what they're watching. There was a post here. I can't really show these things because obviously we're a radio show, but there was a post later on today from Way of the World on Twitter showing some footage of the Netherlands fans last night after the match smashing up some restaurants or whatever in Amsterdam because they'd all been watching it on large TVs. They were furious that they'd lost their match. And the comment was something along the lines of, the Dutch fans smash up a restaurant because their Africans have lost to the Africans of England. Now, of course, none of these things are fair, right, or proper, but in my view, everybody is being done a disservice. All of us are being robbed. These players of African descent, just to repeat a point I've made before, are good. They're good at what they do. Fab. That's great. So why are they denying their talents to their true nation? It's sad. It's really, really sad. Is that correct use of the word? Probably not. But it is a loss. And this is what FIFA want, because they're an arm of this globalist thing. They've used sport more than anything else to get through to the common working man and to warp his understanding of what a nation is. And many people have said this, that football fans, if you put a donkey in the team shirt, they'd support that. And of course, many players who were bad were often referred to as donkeys, and probably rightly so in the past, that kind of stuff. It's a very rich topic for people like us to get into. The other night, I've mentioned before, every other Tuesday, I go to this old pub, 1619 it was built, and we had a fantastic night on Tuesday. Big shout out to everybody that was there. It was a wonderful evening. It must have been because we went on really late. I think we finished at 11, which is pretty late for us. So we started at 7, went on to 11. We had some fantastic Italian food. You don't need to know all this, but we did. It was really good. We had candles in the room. We turned all the electric lights off. We're telling tales, and this kind of topic comes up, and many people recognize it by way of reinforcement as well. And this is, and I'll bring Paul in a second. So I think Paul can hear me. I'll just bring Paul in a second. Just before my wife had her little moment on Monday, I think it was on Saturday or Sunday, this weekend just gone, it was probably on the Saturday, we were going out for our daily constitutional, and we're about 80 yards away from getting back to the house. It was going okay. It was quite slow, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't raining at that time. And there's an elderly couple just down the street from me. Nice chap, really nice. And they're probably in their early 80s. And they've got a very tiny little bungalow, and they keep it really spick and span. And so I often see them in the garden, and whenever we walk by, I will make contact, and we have a chat. It's good. And on the other side of the road, there was a poster for the Labour candidate around here. Anyway, he could see me walking with my wife, and he said, "Come over here." So I did, and we just had a little chat. And then we got round to talking about the election, because obviously it was over by then. And, he said, they came and knocked on my door. I said, oh. I said, they won't knock on mine. And you probably heard me say the other week, they have a little note to not knock on my door because I don't vote, you see. I said, oh, how did that go? He said, well, they said, did I have any questions? And I said to them, what are you going to do about the migrant problem? And when are we going to get them stopped and going back home? That's really what he said to whoever it was, this canvasser, a lady, I think he was saying, who was, of course, her jaw dropped and she was appalled because she was in front of evil incarnate in this 80-year-old man who likes England and is English, you see. And she said, are you a racist? As he recalls the story to me. Are you a racist? He said, yeah. I just fell in love with him. I said, oh, Tom. He said, they were a bit upset. I said, yes. I said, you know what a good retort to that is? He said, no. I said, if you get that thrown at you again by one of your own, ask them if they're a race traitor. Now, this is divisive language. I understand that, but you've got to deal with it in the moment. And I'm not. You can do what you like. I'm just saying that I found it to be effective, because it's not about these people that are wrecking everything because they've managed to, game the system and acquire apparently some influential power. And we've got to start looking at how we're going to stop that and become ungovernable in the face of it, because these people are not fit for anything, least of all governing any of us. They're inadequate in every degree, dense beyond belief, and full of their own virtue, which makes them impossible to communicate with. This is a real challenge. But that's kind of the approach that you can take. And he then spoke to me, and we've touched on this theme before. He brought up a point that you've heard maybe from me, and certainly from some guests over the past few weeks. He said he started talking about his dad. And his dad had been in the war, and he'd been captured in 1939 as part of the British Expeditionary Force during their retreat through France, when they got trapped on the beaches at Dunkirk. And he got captured before he even got to the beach and spent the whole of the war in a concentration camp in Poland. And I went, and I said, and he survived all that? He said, yeah. I said, he must have seen some hellish things. He said, he did. I said, because this is a rough thing, very rough. But he said to me, this, and you will have heard this before too. As I say, repetition's the key to this thing. He said, if all those lads, my dad, could see as what's happened here, what they had fought, so what they were told they were fighting and dying for, he said, I don't think any of them would have fought at all. I said, I know they wouldn't. I said, they were lied to. I said, and guess what? We're being lied to again, because this is what they do. I know you guys know all this kind of stuff, and gals. So that's pretty cool. Right. That's my opening salvo. Look, it went on quite long there this week. 30 minutes and we're in. Let me just find out where Paul is. And I think he's here. Paul, can you hear me on the show?
No, I'm not here.
You're not here? That's good. That's great. Yeah, we're hearing you. That's a good artificial intelligence voice if it is. Yeah, we're hearing you. You're on the show now. Yeah, cool.
Okay, well, I'm amidst a sea of monitors, like pulling things in for the show, looking up ancient dictionaries and trying to pull music together for the show and listening to you and trying to follow what you're thinking about and talking about. Because if you ask me a question about something, I don't want to like open my mic and say, I don't know.
No, that's the best bit. Sometimes I don't know. I've said something. What did I just say? Did I just say that? I don't know what I just said. It's stream of consciousness stuff. Hey, do you like today's monkey, by the way? I don't know. Anybody like the monkey? I really like the monkey. I found the monkey the other day. He's today's show image. He's very thoughtful, and you can see that he's got more intelligence than the entire British Parliament put together. Don't you think? He's sussing things out. That's the sort of guy. I'd go for the monkey over Keir Starmer. Maybe we should do a vote on it. What do you think? I think he's really clued in, that monkey.
I don't know. To tell you truthfully, the first thing I saw when I saw that thumbnail was it reminded me of some days on the radio ranch when the only thing I can think of to say is, not my circus, not my monkeys.
Well, good. That's great. I like him. I like the fact that they put braces on him. It's great. Don't you think? I like Braces. He's good. He looks as though he's been around a bit. He's got that look in his face. It's like, what is this shit I'm listening to? That's what it, as if he's staring off at some blabbermouth talking absolute garbage. And of course, I don't know if you know, but it taps into an old English advertising campaign here. I don't think they run it anymore, although they ran it for donkey's years. I should say monkey years, I suppose, which was a brand of tea. So he's not drinking, I'm telling you right now, he's not drinking coffee, right? He's drinking tea. And because we had this fantastic campaign by a brand, still goes to this day, called PG Tips. I don't know what the PG stands for. Procter and Gamble, was it? I know they make washing up soap and stuff, but they also own a lot of food companies. It can't be that. PG, perfect grade, something like that. What they used to do, they're absolutely brilliant. I was trying to find a few, but I thought it won't really work on the radio because you've got to sort of see it as well. They would dress these monkeys up just like that one. I mean, is that animal cruelty or what? But the monkeys seem to be quite happy. So they get hold of this little troop of chimpanzees and they'd be having a monkey's tea party. But there was one where they were all dressed up as cyclists in the Tour de France drinking tea, which was brilliant. And the one that probably sticks out the most, the one that I should imagine most British guys and gals who saw them will remember, they dressed them up as furniture removal men, and they were moving a piano, and they had to stop. And Mr. Shifter, tea, Mr. Shifter, and he goes, yeah. And they all talk like that. They're all sort of EastEnders, right? These monkeys. They were in this one, and it was like, yeah, 2 lumps, please, love, or 2 sugars, or whatever it was. And they're all having a nice cup of tea. And his son says, Dad, do you know the piano's on my foot? He says, you hum it, son, and I'll play it. It's a joke you'd have to see, but it was great. I liked it. I'm laughing. I might be the only one, but at least one of us is happy, and that's better than on it all, isn't it? So,
well, I think what would be hilariously funny is if they had a troop of monkeys rolling a piano out of a house, and somebody off in the distance, tea time, and the monkeys all turned and let go of the piano, and it continues rolling down the walk or down the drive, and then makes a turn and just keeps going down the hill.
I know.
It'd be hilariously funny.
It would be good. You're gonna have to just film these things and do it. Have I banged on about gardening monkeys? Maybe I've done it here. I might have done it, but I want a little troop of monkeys that can do my gardening for me, and they're welcome to stay. And I've got this whole thing. It's not particularly original, is it? But it's still very appealing. 3 or 4 of them. They're really bright. They actually sort of humour me. They're that, I'm sort of like the idiot in the house, which is probably true. And they just get on with the gardening and stuff. And they're really, really happy. And they're reading Kierkegaard and stuff like that. They're really, really bright. But they actually make out that they're stupid when they're around me because they don't want me to be embarrassed and stuff like that. Anyway, that's a kind of cliche, that sort of setup. But I think it would make for a good film. So that's the reason, everybody, for today's monkey. Okay, I don't know what he's called. We couldn't get his phone number or anything, so I don't know. He's not called Keir Starmer, though. I can tell you that. He's far too intelligent for that sort of nonsense. So, yeah.
So you didn't get a waiver?
He gets a waiver.
You didn't get a waiver to use his image?
Actually,
a great tagline. A great tagline for that commercial with the piano rolling down the hill would be PGT, worth dropping everything for.
Yeah. Well, maybe you've too are lost to the advertising industry, Paul. What's going on? Maybe you are.
Yeah. I got many talents. And just none of them are good enough for anyone to pay me for them. So that's close enough. What can I say?
I don't know. No, it's cool. So that's it. You've been sending me some songs over as well, haven't you? And burdening me with all these different tunes. Yeah, they're interesting. Any particular?
I've not been burdening you.
I just like to moan. I just thought we could have an argument. We always get on so well. I thought maybe I could stir it a bit. And we could just change the tone.
All right. Well, all right. Well, Now I'm moving data from drive to drive, and I have a number of songs. I could deliver them to you. If you really want me to burden you, I can do that.
No. You've sent me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Should we start off with I'm going to take a little song break here. I think we'll do it. We'll do a break right now. So let's do. I'll do the first one that you sent, which is Herb Alpert. Right? I don't know what this one is. I've got a story about a Herb Alpert song.
These are a little outside the norm.
Yeah, I can't tell you my Herb Alpert song story because I'll start crying. So you don't want that. I'm a grown man, and we don't want any of that stuff because I'm trying to be Victorian and have a stiff upper lip. We're going to take a short break. This is. We'll tell you what it is afterwards. Here we go.
Attention all listeners, are you seeking uninterrupted access to WBN 324 Talk Radio despite incoming censorship hurdles? Well, it's a breeze. Just grab and download Opera Browser, then type in WBN324.zil and stay tuned for unfiltered discussions around the clock. That's WBN324.zil.
The views, opinions and content of the show hosts and their guests appearing on the World Broadcasting Network are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of its owners, partners and other hosts or this network. Thank you for listening to WBN 324 Talk Radio.
Hi and welcome back. You listen to Paul English Live here on WBN every Thursday. And I'm here with Paul Beener. Oh, I'm sounding a bit radio-y there. That's a little bit too high energy, isn't it, Paul? I don't know what got into me then. Hey, I like that. I like that. Isn't that one of those songs where everybody's happy and carefree and running around on a beach and they're getting sand in between their toes and there's just that sort of innocent energy around and in the world? That's got to be a 60s thing, right? That thing, was it? Yeah? Yeah,
I believe that was Herb Alpert, and if I know the one that you played, it was "What Now, My Love."
Is that a question you're asking to me? I don't know really, but don't call me your love.
The Brecken
Brothers. Embarrassing. I like that. Yeah. I remember seeing there's a song of his, that I can't remember the title of. In fact, I've tried to search for it lots and lots and lots. There was a video made of it, or some kind of 16mm or 35mm film, promo film for it in the 60s, where they're all kind of running around a beach, and it was a fantastic sort of little groovy thing. So, and also Herb Alpert did make an appearance at my wedding, not literally, but one of his songs did, which was fantastic. So, but I won't go into all of that because it's far too mushy. But Yeah, so it's I would never listen to that stuff when I was young, but every now and again you think, oh yeah, I'll put on my carpet slippers, I'll have a nice cup of cocoa, and I'll listen to a Herb Alpert track. But that was groovy. I quite like that. And sorry about running into the next one. I've got it on a file. I didn't think it was going to do that, so we'll play that next because I had an ex-xylophone, a xylophone, and I love or a vibraphone, one of the two, isn't it? Xylophone or a vibraphone. Cool. Anyway, look, enough like about that. Me. How about you? What was the 4th of July like last Thursday after you'd left the show? Did you go off and cause mayhem or run around saying we're all free? Or what did you do? Did you do anything?
No, actually, I think I just began drinking heavily and really don't remember much of anything after that.
Gosh.
I mean, I had fireworks going off. My cat was, of course, freaking out, and I was thinking, okay, well, I can hold the cat and wind up with like 150 puncture wounds, or I can just have a couple of ports or something and go to bed. So that's what I did.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think probably. Do you think you were the only person in America that did that?
Oh no. Out of 300,
you had to think about that one, didn't you? Sorry, I didn't think it was that tough a question.
Out there.
Yeah, I would have thought you would have probably had a lot of friends doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're just so over it. I mean, like the patriotism thing. I mean, it's a manipulative tool of the globalists that. They just use it as a shoehorn to get people to do what the globalists want them to do, whether they should do it or not. I mean, that's why people go to war. That's why people sign up for the draft or they enlist in the military service. They actually think that they're doing something for the good of humanity and the planet. What they're doing is they're enriching bankers and globalists. So whenever I see or hear somebody tell a veteran, thank you for your service, it just makes me cringe, because I would say thank you for the spirit behind your service. I don't care what you did, because probably some of it was pretty horrific. But I thank you for the spirit behind, the heart behind your service, what that service meant to you and why you were doing it, to protect God, country, and family, to protect your loved ones and friends back home.
Mm-hmm.
That's the spirit I'm thanking them for, not what they actually did. Because what they actually did was nothing but enrich people that need no further enrichment.
I know. I mean, I think, there's all sorts of ways people like us are going to look at these conflicts, and most of those ways are going to be pretty true, I suspect, because they run counter to the mainstream narrative of glory and all that kind of stuff. And no doubt there were acts of heroism from time to time, absolutely, and all that kind of stuff. And some of it's astonishing on all sides. But I think your point's taken, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of comments in here about that. Still going back to the football thing, because it's not about football. I'm not really talking about football here. I'm talking about the definition of the word nation. And the reason why I find it massively important is if we are to restore our nation, everybody needs to know what it is that they're restoring. It's not making the country look nice again. That's not what it is, although it will result in that. That comes afterwards. But it's getting people clear that they stand shoulder to shoulder with their kith and kin. And also that, certainly in our case, we've got this ridiculous situation. I mean, ridiculous is the wrong word. I should be very heavy about it, but I'm just being light and I'm trying to make it trite in a way. But we have a situation where people say we've got a migrant crisis. We clearly do not. We do not have a migrant crisis. What we have is a traitorous political class crisis that's on steroids, that's turbocharged. That's what we've got. These people that are being brought here are being brought in as cannon fodder for their project anyway. They're just on the other side. We're supposed to be one group of cannon fodder. They're going to be the rest of it. And And we've had all sorts of little things happening. I mean, I see that Sussexman writes this. Now, this really is a conspiracy theory, but I'm going to say it because, there's always a little hint, isn't there? A trickle of truth in this. And Sussexman writes, he says, some say England was planned to win to distract from Starmer's announcement that war against Russia is to be upped to allow attacks deep into Russia. It's a possibility, although planning football matches is a bit tricky. It really is. And there was nothing, it didn't look like that to me. They could have, these teams could have lost. It wouldn't matter which team won. By the way, the team that's in the final that England will play, which is on Sunday, and I think most of England, no, I shouldn't say that. I'm desperately hoping that they get thrashed, and the Spanish are very good. And I do think the Spanish might actually be fielding a national team, although someone said no. There's an African in there. This is really weird because the Spanish don't need any African. I mean, there's the idea, you see, that's being put about is, look, you need these African players because they're really good. I don't buy into that at all. I don't even care if they're really good. It's not even relevant. I mean, if it's so racist as well, just having Africans in. Why haven't we got some English Chinese people in there as well? Oh, they're too small. Well, that's heightist. You see, the whole thing is just a complete load of crap. I saw it is. What, you don't want? Yeah, well, the Chinese are only 5'4". Well, you can't have them in. You know what I mean? It's no end to it. It's like, because these idiots, of course, are thinking that there's this thing called equality that can be attained. It can't. It's a completely unattainable, pointless, irrelevant sentence to say, we're pursuing equality. What, you're mad then, are you? You've lost your brains. You didn't even have any to start off with. And I'm going to go back to this other idea. I've said this before, but I keep on getting sort of infused with this. It's ludicrous, right? It's really silly. But I want us to, I mean, I ain't got the time and energy to do it, which is a big cop-out, right? Paul, put your money where your mouth is, I don't have much money. But I would love to see a... I'd love to see a... What don't you believe?
I don't believe the games of chance are games of chance, and I don't believe the games of skill are games of skill. I believe that they pick the teams that they want to be playing the games, particularly certainly the playoffs. What was it? Between 2012 and 2016, when they were like setting up the whole Patriots versus the deep state thing. Guess what? Two teams wound up at the Super Bowl. Guess what? Guess which two teams wound up at the Super Bowl?
Well, how about the New England Patriots? Did they end up? Yeah. Were they one of them?
The Patriots.
Yes.
And the Eagles.
Right.
So the Eagle would have been the corporate government.
Yeah.
And the Patriots would have been the individual people.
The people.
And believe it or not, there were people that were camped out on the literal edge of their couches waiting to see which team would win, because that would equate to them who was going to win in the end, the government or people.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there were people that were actually sitting on the edge of their seat letting a football game prognosticate for them the condition of their country going forward.
Maybe it's an improvement over what used to.
How stupid.
Why am I not surprised?
I think we could probably do very well letting sports teams do that.
Yeah, I know.
Let them decide who's going to be in Washington.
It'd be more fun, wouldn't it? I mean, it really would. And they've got just as much brains. It really would. Why am I not surprised? I mean, I'm sat here looking at myself going, yeah, of course, you're probably right. Thinking, this really is a weird place. But of course, we're clued in. Many of us are clued in as to what's really, how we're being scammed and deceived and misdirected, all that kind of stuff. So can we get it across, though, to the great herd of rabid fans? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, what I was just saying there in the first half hour, if I went to a pub of English fans and started speaking like that, I'd probably come out minus my head, because they're not going to take that stuff. They're just, I go, now look here, chaps, there's no need to get to, hang on just a minute. Will you put that, whack? Because they tend to go to that. It's
Wait a minute, I might need that on.
Yeah. Look, give that back. Bloody hell. I'd give my right arm to be ambidextrous and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, it's tricky. It's tricky. You must be careful about who you're saying things to. And of course, I haven't a clue who's hearing this. I know about all the naughty people in the Rumble chat and everything like that, but we don't know. We've no idea. But the point, I just want to get the point across. And it's just like my neighbor down the road, you know. I'm trying to always find little ways to just introduce that theme. I can't stop. It's like picking a spot or a scab. I can't stop it. And it's the right thing to do. My instincts tell me, go there, Paul, in the conversation. Let's find, with this person, don't phrase it too heavy, right? Always trying to get connection with people about where they're at. Is it going on beneath the surface with people? It is. It really is. One of the interesting things with I put a little subhead here for today's show, lies, damn lies, and statistics. Is that Lincoln? You know, I shouldn't be quoting Lincoln, but I think it is, isn't it? The statistical reports that we have seen so far regarding the UK election last week, if correct, and I think they probably are settling down and getting there right now, are very interesting. They're possibly even positive for people in this camp. And what I mean by that is we had a situation where this Keir Starmer puppet and his gang of, whatever you want to call them, have walked in with an enormous majority. So the English election system or the British election system is first past the post, which tends to produce, and certainly has this time, a very disproportionate weight of seats for people that just win all over the place. Now, so Labour, I think they won several seats by less than 100 votes. This is minute, really, very tiny amount of people. But I was looking at something. The stats are that in terms of the actual number of votes that they received across the entire turnout, and the turnout was very low, less than 60%. The figure I saw today was 59.8% or something like that. The lowest for like 20 years or since 1997. And the reason that was, or 98 something was probably low, is that people felt that the wonderful Tony Blair was going to walk in, which he did, and he did so much for the country as well. I'm being sarcastic. Anyway, so it was less. They polled something like 10.2 million actual votes, which was less than what they polled in 2017, where they got thrashed in the election. How does that work? Well, it's all to do with seats and these electoral wards and where the MPs are standing. So they get 10 million votes, rounding it down, and get 414 or whatever his seats, 400 plus seats. The Reform Party with Nigel Farage in the garage. I'm not a champion of this guy. They've decided that Reform are going to be the extreme right-wing fascist party. It's just hilariously not true, but they keep hammering away, and I guess they're going to get a result in people's atrophied brains with that one. They polled over 4 million votes. So if you were actually to work it out proportionally, if for 10 million votes you get 400 seats, I'm being silly here, for 4 million, you should get 160 seats, right? But they got 4.
You should.
4 seats. 4. Right, 4. Not only that, the Liberal Democrats got 70 seats. So Reform got 4 or 5. The Liberal Democrats got 70, but they got less votes than Reform. They got 3 million votes and got 70 seats. And so you've got to look at this and go, there's something not quite right here. Well, we've all kind of known this for a long time. We've all kind of known that there's something not right with it. There's been efforts over here to do a thing called proportional representation, which can never get implemented because you have to appeal to the government of the day to change the electoral system, and they're never going to do it because the current electoral system is the one that got them in. Hang on, you want us to change the rules so that we don't get in? Yeah, please. Would you mind awfully? And then it's fair. We've got this quaint idea of fairness. So they never go for it. What would you expect? I mean, you were talking the other week about in the States, you've got these electoral colleges that's really where the final say-so happens. Is that not right? The electoral colleges?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's supposed to be by the number of representatives in the states and the popular vote and all that stuff. But it's already decided long before the election even happens.
Yeah.
And don't even get me started on the Biden-Trump debate thing. No. No.
You don't want to talk
There's
about
only
that.
so much silliness you could put in a very smart radio program like this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. It's okay. It's fine. Find a drink. Just go and have a drink and calm down. Everything's going to be okay.
Actually, you know what? What? Well, full disclosure, yes, I have one.
Are you lowering the tone of this show?
I have one.
That's outrageous. That's no good at all. That's really, really bad.
Yeah, well, we're not on video, so it's all good.
We're not on video yet. No, it is. I guess it's okay.
Honestly, politics these days has just turned me into such a lush. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's craziness all over the world, really, and like, who expects Congress to vote for term limits?
Yeah.
Who in God's green earth would vote themselves out of a job?
Yeah, they're not really going to do that.
Okay.
I know. Listen, I got a little post I want to read from Mark Collett. You may not have heard. Mark Collett heads up Patriotic Alternative. If you go and look it up in Wikipedia, it'll tell you it's a right-wing fascist neo-Nazi hate group. It's just people that want England back. It's patriots, right? But, that means you are a Nazi. And as we've said here before, we're all Nazis now. So you might as well, I've mentioned it before. I had, what was my Nazi breakfast this morning? It was actually some cornflakes for a bit, but I also had a buttered croissant, and that's pretty Nazi. They used to eat loads of those when they were in Paris. So, I mean, it's a dead giveaway when you think about it. I got this really courtesy of Nick Griffin's Telegram group, which I read from time to time, very lively. And he he made some comments and slight criticisms, which are true, but I'm not going to go there on this one. You can find those out. Then there's nothing nasty about it. But he was basically, Nick has been saying, I believe, or Mr. Griffin has been saying that there is no electoral way through, something which I 1000% agree with, and my track record is completely in line with that. I've never believed in it at all. But Mark Collett has been looking at this, but he made these comments. These are just worth reading out. And this is still to do with lies, damn lies, and statistics, or what's taking place. He says, Labour, this is Collett writing, he says, Labour has a huge majority, one of the largest post-war parliamentary majorities on record, yet only 33.8% of people voted for them. Right now, it's actually 33.8% of the electorate. That's not all people. So I don't know what the actual final percentage is, but it's lower than that. Point number 2, Reform, that's Nigel Farage, I'm still in the garage, his party, took 14.3% of the vote and got 4 seats. Right? And the Liberal Democrats took 12% of the vote and took 71 seats. And he writes, the conclusion is obvious. First past the post voting, and the current parliamentary democracy we have here in the UK is totally broken, absolutely, and produces results that are not representative of views of the population. No, which is exactly what it's designed to do, whilst pretending we are then told that you can express your will, in a parliamentary vote. He says, taking all of this into account, it's clear to anyone that electoral success at a parliamentary level for nationalists, patriots, people that love their nation, which should be all people in my view, but I can't tell other nations how to behave, is unlikely to say the least. Correct. Nationalists must find ways to come together and advocate for our collective interests and rights without relying on a broken electoral system for a change. And he says, is the electoral route a dead end? And there's a link to a video of his, which I haven't had time to get around and see. I don't know if I will. But this is really the case. And yet, I want to point something out with the statistics. I'm saying that I won that election. I'm going to say that I won it. Now, if you did the same thing, because I might as well, it's got just as much credibility as what's going on, right? No, I won it. There's a bloke in a shed on the south coast of England that says he won the election. Yep, I did. You got to listen to me now, blah, blah, blah. What I mean is the biggest block that made the same decision, the largest grouping of all, were those of us that didn't vote, 40.2%. We are the biggest group of people, the non-participants. Now, is there a way, answers on a postcard, please, is there a way to rally, infuse, galvanize, whatever word you want to use, the great mass of lackluster, indifferent oafs, including myself? I'm actually not that, but that's what you'd be classed as, who didn't vote because they are sick to the pit of their very being with these lying turds that are sitting around in Parliament. Now, is there a way to do that? If there is, we need to start a form of action that does it, or do we? One of the problems, I was discussing this as well with someone else. If we form organizations, you know what's going to happen to them. You're going to get demonized by the press. So it seems to me, this is all grandiose and sort of will-o'-the-wisp thinking in a way, but developing our own media is vital. We can't really develop it on a national scale because people argue all the time. You know, I come from a certain race of people, and most of us are going to argue with everybody else. Most of the time, it's a great joy. At times, it's not particularly useful when you're trying to put up a concerted effort. But on a local basis, it might be possible. So, and I did mention here as well, while still on this rather tedious, but I still think pretty relevant theme of what happened last week, I mentioned here that this area where I live has been conservative forever because it started with conservative candidates before the Labour Party was even formed. I think the Labour Party was formed in the 1920s or something like that. I haven't got the exact date, and it's not important, so don't start pulling me up on it. It doesn't matter at all. But so it's always been conservative. Well, guess what? Not anymore. Not anymore. The Labour Party got in this area. And the guy that's in this area who's been sitting there ever since I got here, and I was saying it will never change. Well, I was wrong. I'm not particularly sad about it because it wouldn't have mattered either way. So, yeah, the Labour Party got in, and so now this is a Labour district or whatever that might mean. It probably just means more accelerated turbo destruction of the nation. Everybody's bracing themselves for this, and many, many stories and tales are running around like this. And Starmer has not disappointed. I think one of his first actions, and they're not his, one of the first orders that he'd received that he executed was he's looking at forgiving all illegal migrants. I don't know how many there are, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. I have no idea. They're not doing anything to stop them. So that's why I come back to this point. It's getting clearer now. It's not just a turn of phrase. The government is our enemy. It is willfully telling us what to do. It does not have the consent of anywhere near the majority of the people in this country, no matter what the seats numbers say. It has nothing of the sort. Absolutely nothing of the sort. The biggest block of people are the ones that want them all out. That's us. Is it possible for us to become a force in such a way that we disrupt them so that they cannot govern? That's what we have to do, because these people are traitors. They're not traitors because I say so, but they are. They're literally acting in a traitorous way. They're undermining the will of the people. They're not actually fulfilling the roles of a democracy. Not that I give up monkeys about that. Sorry, monkey. I still like the monkeys. And that's what's taking place. So local restoration is maybe the way to go. I do think local politics, whatever I might mean by that, is, and whatever you might think it means, that's what's needed. Connections with people in your street, within your little town, your village, wherever, and to build up a thought framework, a little bit more than just, providing analysis of all the evil that they're doing to us. And I know many people that are listening to this show, say on Rumble, come from that space. I do, you do, Paul. We are people who've gone off and asked a lot of questions about why things are the way they are. We've come up with a lot of good answers, and yet this is still not enough. And it's not enough because the other side are determined to destroy us. It's the only conclusion, it's my current conclusion, because they're not doing what we want. And their arguments, and this is why I spent a bit of time really going back over the what a nation is thing and just using football to illustrate it, maybe for traction in the minds of more people because they know what football is, It's so important. They always interpret it that, you hate all these other races. No, I haven't got the time, the energy, the effort. I don't even think like that. What I want to know is why are you not doing anything at all for the people of this nation? Actually, it's worse than that. Why are you actually harming the people of this nation? Actually, it's even worse than that. Why is it that every single plan you've got is not wanted by anybody in the nation at all, and that you won't give them a voice, and that you've structured this completely bogus system, and you think we're going to believe it. It's worrying because they are all in. It's not possible, it seems to me, to communicate with them to get them to change their rancid behavior, because they're all locked up mentally. It's gone, and it's, you know, it's like we observed with the COVID thing. Once people have aligned with a certain path, and many people align with authority, you know, who's the biggest bully in the room, that's who I'm going to be on his side or her side or whatever it is. They won't come away from it because the repercussions for them are bad. And it's the same with all these minions through these power structures. You know, we've talked about it here recently with regards to, say, people who are in the police forces, and some of them are carrying out instructions and orders which are criminal. Yeah, they're criminal. Now they think, oh, I'm on the winning side, so I'll get away with it. But they obviously have not thought this through or read history, and many of them should be taught the history of what happened to people that did that in Russia. For early days, great, yeah, we'll have you as the bully boys. Later on, 5 years down the line, mid-20s, that you're going to get a purge. Why? Because you know things. These people that have carried out these criminal acts know things about who gave them the orders. And the people that gave them the orders go, all those people.
Exactly.
Yeah, they know I gave them the orders. Now I'm getting more paranoid. I'm going to have to kill them too. And they don't see it coming. It's just going to wipe them all out. So,
yeah. Well, I don't know what to do, but I have a couple of good ideas. I think, at least I think they're good ideas in my current state of mind, anyways. First of all,
how much have you been drinking?
All politics is local.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I don't know, just half of one so far.
Okay, cool.
But I've got to say it's pretty tall. Anyways, all politics is local. You know why? Because all local politicians are accessible. You can get up in their face and tell them that, you know, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You need to do that. So concentrate on local politics, put the people in the local positions that will work for you, and also institute the requirement that they have to release their tax forms. They have to release their financial statements, and they have to be a matter of public record. If they're going to be a politician, then any potential that they have for, like, accepting a bribe or a stipend or an emolument or whatever it is, that's got to be in the public record. So if they're dirty, we know it. Okay. Yeah. And then we get rid of the ones that are dirty. We promote and support and defend the ones that are not dirty, and just let DC do whatever it will. I mean, who really cares what goes on in the middle of a swamp that's 10 miles square? Who cares?
I know.
You know, it's got to be, the world has got to go back to individual enclaves, local governments that actually are in touch with the people and work with the people and know what the people need and are there to give them whatever support and assistance they need to be able to pull themselves up. You know, you give them a hand up, a leg up, not a hand out.
Yeah.
Okay. The government, the federal government gives handouts. They buy votes. They buy allegiance.
You're right. You know, at the little lunch that we had on Tuesday, just gone, one of the people that was talking about a local council meeting, and they'd gone along to it. There were only 3 people went to attend this council meeting, and it was that you can have a disproportionate amount of power in these meetings. I know nothing about this because instinctively I don't want to go into their buildings. I almost like have a physiological, I'm going to puke at the thought of where I have to go. The mindset of these people who consider themselves to be doing us all a favor that we never asked for. You know, I didn't invite you to, you know, we've mentioned it here before. Nearly, if you look at every single structure that's telling us what to do, it operates as a psychological protection racket. We're going to sort out your health. We're going to treat it. We don't want you to treat our health. We want you to sort out the food. If you sort out the food and you leave the farmers alone and we can produce this really healthy food, guess what? Many of the diseases that your pharmaceutical companies who are giving you backhanders, right, deal with, we won't have to deal with that. It's this evolved parasitical culture of politics and banking and the rest that is the true enemy, and it sucks people in, and you can't get through to them because they do think they're doing you a favor. No, I'm actually the knight in shining armor that you want. No, we didn't even send out a letter that we wanted one. I don't remember asking for a national government. Why have we even got one? Oh, you need one. Why? Well, we're here, but we don't have any trouble. Well, now that we're here, you will. That's the implicit subtext of what they're saying all the time, and that's all we do have. All of this. I know I'm going over ground, but I think one of the things we're talking about as well the other day is just this thing about action. Any action will do, not because the end result of that action might produce the results that we're looking for, but as a form, a project to pull good people together to work with one another in some way. I've mentioned it here before that if you have a meeting and people don't feel equipped to talk, and many people don't feel like talking, I understand that, and they go, I don't really want to talk in front of a crowd of 9 people or whatever it is. Some people are just more reticent or modest about things at this stage and where they're at, and that's fine. And so there are certain things that need to be done. And I'm going to pick something that sounds really menial because it's not actually about the task itself, like washing things up after a meeting, right? I've mentioned this before. It's not about the fact of the bloody washing up. It's the fact that you're working together as a group and something that does need doing is getting done. It's like saying, look, when we set a thing out and we do this thing and it gets done, there's something that happens because of that. It's not even an intellectual thing. It's an internal encouragement thing. You're sending a message back to you and everybody else that you're working with that, hey, look, we can do the washing up. You go, big deal. You go, no, but before last week we weren't doing anything. Now we're doing the wash. Now we're getting the room tidier. Now we're actually booking whatever it may be. It's action. Action is sometimes required. Any old action. To shut the brain down with all this fine tuning. I suffer from this as well, analyzing the problem and looking at it. But in the end, all this analysis, I feel, needs to lead to very simple sort of communication campaigns, which is why I've droned on and on and on repeatedly about the football thing, because it's got a broad coverage in people's minds, and you might be able to get them on that, or you get your head smashed in the pub if you read the room wrong. That's a possibility too, so it all goes with it. But it just does. And so it's like a political movement that we need, not a political party. We don't want any of that nonsense. Why do we want that? If we develop a political movement that makes, in my case, the English, the Scots, the Welsh, the people of Northern Ireland, and I include the Irish in Ireland because they're suffering exactly the same garbage we are. If we become ungovernable, and if we make it such that these people that are giving these orders begin to get very concerned about the repercussions, because there will be some. This is not a threat. This is history. It happens. These people are oblivious to there's like a pressure wave. It's like a revolving door. You know it. Oh, it'll be all right. And it comes and it smacks them. Everybody gets smacked when you stop paying attention. And this happens a lot with ruling classes because hubris is their enemy. Well, we're completely in control now. Are you? Really? There's a thing called nature, and it won't have it. It's not going to have it, no matter what. So, I lean on that, I suppose, in my own thinking when I'm looking for sort of a more positive way through. Let's have another song. Let's do this one that began off with, now this is either a vibraphone or a xylophone.
Whoa.
What is it?
Wait a minute. No. We had a couple of suggestions from Patrick, and I have sent them to you. And I believe Patrick says the one that would be the most apropos for what we were doing before when we did it would be Bernard Cribbins.
I like the way you said that. You said that as though you had been drinking, because Bernard, I bet he's never ever been called that. So over it is Bernard.
Bernard.
I don't want to look. We'll do Bernard. I know
that's how you're supposed to say.
Yeah, it's great. No, we will. I'll stick that one in. But I'm sorry, I've got this xylophone thing running in my head. So this is Isla Eckinger. Don't know what it is. So we're going to play this. We're going to. Yeah, let's take a xylophone break. Here we go, and then it'll give me a chance to catch up with the chat because it's so busy in there. So I'm going to get in and have a look, everybody. Very lively. Here we go. We're going to take a little break. What's that?
It'll also give me a chance to reset 2 conference rooms and kill noise cancellation because it's causing a problem. But
well, good luck with that.
Everybody hang on, it's going to hiccup, but we'll be good.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Hey, it's like being in a jazz club.
This is for information purposes only. I've been laughing my ass off for a year at least. These elites blaming cows for the CO2 problem and stuff. Cows can't fart. It's impossible. They belch once in a while, comes up out of the front, but they can't fart. That's how stupid these sons of bitches are. Do you hear me now?
And we're back. How about that? We're back. And if you didn't know that cows can't fart, you know it now. Okay. Is that good?
Now you do.
Now you do. Now you know. They got 4 stomachs. I mean, why would they fart? You know, that's cool. So there you go. That's direct from a cow farmer. But, of course, we know that logic doesn't make any difference these days, but at least we now know. So when one of those stupid environmental doofuses comes up to you, you just say, cows can't fart. But I can. No, you don't want to be doing that. That's very, very bad and naughty.
Cow flatulence.
I know. Yeah, really, cow flatulence. So,
man.
Yeah.
It just doesn't get any weirder than this.
No, it doesn't. That xylophone music was weird, wasn't it? I felt it was like I was in an elevator going on and on and on. But I actually quite like that. But it's that was getting a bit.
It was positively festive.
Yeah, it was sort of quite jazzy, man, and cool. And I thought, where's my beret? You know, I need to get my beret on and those little square glasses and be a hip dude. But of course, I'm from the north, and we're not hip. We don't do that sort of thing.
Cool.
But yeah, cool, fantastic.
Cool, man.
Oh, I had something else to play. Look,
cool.
talk about running a disjointed show that goes from one thing to another in a sort of berserk fashion. You know, we'll get back to the other stuff in a second. We've still got plenty of time left. It's just gone, 20 past 9 here. That means it's 20 past 4. Little shout out, you're listening to Paul English Live here on WBN, and we're also on Radio Soapbox, and we're on Rumble. And if you want to get into the Rumble chat, and you should, you ought to get into it, go over to paulenglishlive.com and click the Rumble logo there, and it'll bring you in. I think you need a Rumble account, actually, to chat in there, don't you? But they're free, so if you haven't set one up, you'll be cursing me, but blah, 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 blah. Right, I want to play you this little thing. You know how I've said about English accents here in these islands?
Go to Rumble.
Yeah. Yeah, go to. You know, I've said.
Let me just share one thing. Go to Rumble. You will not find a more unbelievably cool bunch of reprobates as long as you live. Get on into Rumble. Get into the chat. They are awesome. Yeah,
they are. Have you guys out in the chat? You've been paying Paul to say that. That was a good promo, you know, for the Rumble chat. I quite like that, Paul. That was pretty good. Yeah, they are. Some fantastic stuff in there, guys. I love it. It's very rich. It's very rich with spot-on stuff. Brilliant stuff. I've mentioned here, this is just going off at a tangent because I want to, because, you know, it's Thursday and I'm kind of in that mood. I've mentioned here before, if anybody that comes to England, if you've not been here before, you wander around, the accent changes about every 30 miles. But every 30, I'm serious, it'll just be different. It's been like this for a long time. I came across this little thing. It's only a couple of minutes long. We've not been talking about this at all, but I thought it was fascinating, so I'm just gonna play it.
Did you know that Britain has more regional accents per square mile than any country on the planet? Yes, it does. And the reason I'm going to tell you this, well, I think it's very interesting, is because I've just been chatting to a pair of Australians here in Canterbury, Kent. This is the famous Canterbury Cathedral where Thomas à Becket was murdered in 1170. I think it was 1170. Google it. The video's not about him. It's about accents. And I was talking to these Australians who knew me from antiques TV shows and YouTube, in fact. Thank you for following. And I said to them, I love your accent. And they said, oh, thank you very much. I said, where does your accent come from? And they said, what do you mean, where does it come from? We're Australian. I said, yes, but how did your accent develop into that Australian accent? They had no idea. They'd never even thought about it. Probably rightly so. Why would you? But I researched it for my book. Here it is, A Bash with the British Empire. So if it's in here, it's got to be true. And I discovered that the Australian accent was first noted in 1820, and the authorities there at the time were bemused by this accent that the colonial children were coming out with. And so they looked into it, and they deduced that this Australian accent was a mix of all the British accents in one, and it had never been heard in Britain before, and there's a very good reason for that, because the accent had developed with English, Irish, Scottish and Welsh peoples all being put together in little townships in Australia. Now, this accent had never developed in Britain because these peoples ordinarily would never meet one another ever if they remained in Britain. So it was only when they got to Australia did they meet for the very first time. And so when you put people from Edinburgh, Dublin, London and Glasgow together, then within a generation or two, their accents mix, and the children of the settlers, the colonials, the children of these people develop a new accent. It would happen today. And this was noted in Australia for the very first time, the Australian accent. The same can apply to, of course, the New Zealanders in 1820.
Hey, see, you learn something new every day. So Australian accent is basically the whole thing poured into one. So I guess they could say, well, we've got a bit of everything, and so we're better than the rest of you. And if I was Australian, that's what I'd be bloody saying, mate. So, why not?
Oh, for sure.
Cool, that, isn't it? Don't you think? I just stumbled across it, so yeah.
That is absolutely outstanding, and what's better, it makes total sense. You put all these melting pots of accents together, the kids are naturally going to pick up bits and pieces from each one.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
It's brilliant. I came across it this afternoon. I just thought, wow. Yeah, because, there's this thing with the Australian accent. Many of the time, the sentences go up at the end. It's almost as if they're asking a question all the time. And I like that. I like it.
Right.
So, yeah, it's really good. It's very lively. So I like Australian, I have to say. I do like it. Kiwi is a little bit more sober, I suppose, a bit more conservative in the way that it moves around in the sound space. How do you think, what's the root of the American accent? I often thought it was really a blend of Irish and English. In a way, we had some really good Irish friends from Southern Ireland up in London. They're still there. We've just not seen them for a few years. And they would go to Carolina a lot for holidays and stuff. They could do that, and they like to do that. And when they came back, they picked up an American twang, but it was infused with Irish, and you could hear it seemed quite natural. It just sort of moved across into that way of talking. But maybe I don't know whether you've got as many regional accents, possibly because the nation was populated rapidly, but I don't know. I kind of find it fascinating that it's really intriguing the way people sound and do things, because it sounds
there's a definite difference between the accents of the South and the North. There's a definite difference between the accents of the East and the West. And then there's a difference in the accents of the center of the country, like the Norwegian and the Swedish influence, like in Minnesota and the Dakotas, and things like that. And then and I don't know where Texas gets their accent from, but it's awesome, and I just love it.
I do. It is awesome. It's fantastic. I like the Texas accent. I was always thinking of those accents in that film Fargo, which are where they're set up. And that Norwegian element, it's just really, I'm going, why is he talking like that? Oh, and I got this. It's good to have this different sense of different sounds in different parts of America. As there's a guy over here called Al Murray. He's the British landlord. He's a comedy act, right? And he's a great guy. And he plays the role of the extremely confident British landlord who's telling all these foreigners what to do, right? And he gives you a list of all the countries that Britain have invaded and conquered, and we know what we're doing and all that. It's a great act. It's very funny. How did he describe America? He said, very big, very unwieldy countries, too large. He said, over here, it's all very it's great. It's great. And he was taking the mickey out of this American guy in the audience.
Country.
Yeah, it's wonderful stuff. It's really, really good stuff. And he's going, name me a nation. And he's got this competition. So you name any country and he'll tell you when we invaded it. And it's sad, but it's true. It's true. It's like everything. People go, what? How many? It's like 160 countries. There's only a few that we've left alone. It's all a bit strange and funny. It's very odd. Yeah, it is. We're laughing about it, but of course it's very, very bad, and we should hang our heads in shame. But it's in the past now, but of course they will drag it up because we're all evil white people. But very funny show. Yeah, it's a cracking thing. And Britain used to have landlords like that. It might still have them. And that's part of the thing that's gone as well. When we were younger, when I was younger in the 70s as a teenager, beginning to creep into pubs, there were some where the landlord wanted the money so bad he didn't care if you're 10. He'd serve you beer, right? Not that we went in when we were 10, because I didn't know what a pub was then. I was very innocent, you see. But and others would be very firm with you. Yeah, very, and they would be very firm. So you'd end up, once we found a pub where we liked the landlord, you just go there, and a lot of it was based on that. It really was. A pub would thrive on the charisma or lack of it thereof of the landlord, and some of them were fantastic, and some were humorless, miserable bastards. There's no other way to describe it. Hi, is that Patrick lurking? Are you not lurking so much now, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool.
So,
Hi. Well,
so pub is what, an abbreviation of a public house?
That's right, a public house. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, you've just sparked. Maybe, lads and lasses out here in England, we need to turn our houses into old-fashioned public houses and have meetings in them. That's how it began. People just say, right, my house, I'm opening it to the public on Sunday, and I've got 3 barrels of beer, and you can come in, and it's £1 a pint. Or what? I mean, I don't know what the prices were, because this goes back a long way. But that's how they began. Yeah, the ale house. And the ale house would be next to where the stagecoaches, we had them here obviously, would pull up with all guys travelling out from London and going back, and they get tired out, so they need somewhere to stay. So the pubs would build up there, public houses, and then they'd make money on the room and board and the mighty British breakfast. I don't know how mighty it was back then. And then during the week, when they were not so busy, people would just come in and just get drunk. Obliterated on beer.
One of those.
So Paul, have you ever heard of? We had these things over here called Fourierite communities. Or
Say that again. How do you spell that? How's that go?
I think it's spelled like the letter 4, and then ERITE.
Mm-hmm.
And it's named, I believe, after Charles Fourier, who was he was a French utopian type person who started these communes in places like Madison, Wisconsin, and down in Texas near Galveston.
Right.
And I believe a lot of like our modern Republican Party stems from these communes, especially the one here in Wisconsin. It was founded, the Republican Party was founded in Wisconsin. And a lot of them were French, German descent, some Dutch. And like I would say a lot of our accents in this region, the Mississippi down to Texas, is a lot due to the Dutch accent.
Yeah.
And, especially like down in Texas, they had a lot of Swiss, they had French, Germans, and it was quite a thing back in the day in the 1800s, early 1800s. After the French Revolution, they started having these commune type things, and that's my guess. I know we have Amish people around here who speak of a version of Dutch called Pennsylvania Dutch.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
When you hear them speak English,
yeah,
they have the really rustic sounding, like hey, or how y'all, kind of like that type of thing going on. So my guess, it's a lot of Germanic inflection that causes some of these.
Yeah.
And especially like in Minnesota here, the Fargo thing. Y'all come, how do they do it?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. You betcha.
You betcha.
You betcha. Don't you know? That kind of thing.
You're gonna. Tell you what, you're gonna have to go and find some of these. We need to bring them into the show so that we get all these different accented sort of little. That would be cool. I'd like that. Well, it's really good.
It seems like after the third generation, they all kind of lose it. We all get muddled into Americanized television English.
Well, in England, of course, all the blokes that get past the age of 50, we all start to speak like we work for the BBC. You see, this is what happens. I'm lying, of course. It'd be really odd if we did. Hello, Nigel. Oh, hello. Yes, good morning. All that kind of stuff. It'd be tremendous. It'd be very funny. Somebody asked earlier on, by the way, in the chat about you guys. I don't know. They're not asking anything about me. So, it's just I don't know why I do this show. They said, are there any other shows that Patrick and Paul B are on? And if so, what are they? In other words, do you have podcasts or something? Because I've never asked you because I'm just a rude git. So I'm asking you now, what other things online, radio-wise, do you guys do?
Paul,
well,
you go
for
ahead.
me, this is actually the most out front radio program that I have. I am
Roger
most of
Sales.
what I do is like engineering, and I'm in the background. Of course, I do the Rogers Sales Radio Ranch Monday through Saturday on Eurofolkradio.com and Global Voice Radio. But I really don't have shows where I am the principal host. I'm kind of like the guy in the background and the guy pushing the buttons, and I'm comfortable with that. So I really enjoy stepping outside the box on Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Paul English Live. So, Paul, I love you, man. I just love you, man. Thank you so much.
That's good. I think my word lurking is correct, you see. And there's not only you, there's this whole Global Voice Network gang somewhere in the background of the audio space.
Yep.
All these little eyes in the dark and ears listening, which is tremendous. No, it's fantastic. And Patrick, when you're not out slaughtering animals and not here doing this, what radio things are you doing these days?
Well, as I'm becoming more knowledgeable about how to use the software and technology, I'm starting to branch out on my own. I recently did a podcast called the Radio Windmiller Podcast with Frederick C. Blackburn out in North Carolina. And you talk about accents. He's got the Appalachian accent going on, kind of like this.
I like that accent. It's fantastic.
So,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely you want to check that out. We did a show. He actually, I came up with this video that I had seen about Bob Dylan, and we kind of talked about that because I have a great uncle that's a musician that is friends with Dylan. So,
wow.
Yeah, you check that out. You go to podhome.fm/windmiller, and you should be able to find that one.
We're not talking about the same wind as that guy was talking about with regard to cows, though, are we? We're not talking about that.
Not that kind of wind. No. But
No.
you know, here in Wisconsin, you're downwind from a lot of cows and pigs and all sorts of other.
Yeah, and
animals,
surrounded by
creatures.
cheese, surrounded by cheese, huge mountains of cheese everywhere. Yeah,
and meat sticks.
What?
Stellar meat sticks.
What's a meat stick?
Like beef sticks and sausage sticks. And,
like Jack Links. Yeah, I have a cousin that works for this company called Jack Links, and they
Wisconsin is
distribute
famous for two things: meat and cheese.
Yeah.
Meat and cheese.
Beer.
It's like a cheeseburger,
beer,
right?
too.
You look at a cheeseburger, and basically you've got a cow in your hand, haven't you? You go, none of this would be possible without the cow. It wouldn't. What can you do?
No, are you familiar with what a Slim Jim is?
I think I'm about to be, so I'm going to... No, I'm not right now.
Okay. Well, a meat stick is it's kind of almost dehydrated. It's dried. It's very low moisture. It's like a sausage in a stick. Okay.
Right.
And they've got pepperoni and they've got peppered and they've got jerked and they've got all the different flavors and stuff. And Wisconsin is crazy famous for that.
Is it really?
And also for their cheese, because they've got a great dairy industry. They've got a great dairy and beef industry in Wisconsin. But then they also have some amazing beers. I'm not talking about the big ones like the old Milwaukee's and stuff that'll, if you spill some on you, you can't get it off with battery acid and a Brillo pad. I'm talking about the small craft breweries that are in Wisconsin. They are absolutely off the hook. Everybody needs to visit Wisconsin, and for more than just Wisconsin Dells. I'm just saying.
Hey, you're good. Maybe, Patrick, you can hire him into the Wisconsin marketing board or something like that. That was really good pitch, Paul. Yeah, that was cool. That was really good. But I just got to say about beef jerky, this is one of these completely stupid things that's never come out of my head. For some reason, one day I was looking in the dictionary at words. I needed a word that began with PEM. You'd think there'd be quite a lot. There isn't. There's one. There isn't the English dictionary. pemmican, which is beef jerky, right? That's the only word. And I'm going, P-E-M, there must be loads of things. There's lots of place names like Pembroke or, well, that's the only one I can think of, but there are place names, right? But yeah, that was the only word. I thought, that seems odd. It seems like such a common arrangement of letters. You think, well, there must be loads. But anyway, no. So there we go. Just hopping over to the chat as well. Some interesting little comments here from the Kingston Whittler. Hi, the Kingston Whittler. Writes, I heard a podcast once that explained US accents. So, for instance, the southern accent comes from Cockney London. Hello. I can't for the life of me remember which podcast it was. Oh, thanks. That's great. Heard a podcast once that blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, same thing. So, yeah. So that's really... Yes, the Texas accent. I like most of those southern accents. They were often portrayed over here of being the accent of people that were a little slow. But I know that's complete bunk. That's total bunk. No. It's them being sly down there in the South, playing all goofy and dingbat, and they're not at all. I don't have that impression at all. Not when you look into it and you see what's going on.
It's not slow.
No.
It's laid back. And it's comfortable.
They draw you in. They draw you in.
It's living life. It's living life on your own terms and your own time schedule. And if somebody is in too big a hurry to hear what you have to say, they don't deserve to hear it. I'm just saying.
Paul, you need to do a lot of accent recordings. We need these for voiceovers and things. I love it when you do this. It's great. You're really good at it. It's fantastic. Hopping around a bit because there's lots going on. So many different chats. All good stuff tonight. Billy Silver writes, just going back to the pub things. Any thoughts on why many pubs call themselves Arms? Yeah, like the King's Arms, or I don't know. The Blacksmith's Arms. Yeah, well, the Blacksmith's Arms is about his arms because they were big and he used to be battering the hell out of horseshoes and things like that. Do you think it's connected to storing the arms for local militia? Yes. When it was the norm? Yes. Don't know. Just a guess. I think it's a very excellent guess, Billy. I would certainly assume that because in the villages they would keep their arms. They had to keep them dry. I mean, the pub that we go to, the Gun, right? It should tell you. It used to be an armory. It's called the Gun. And when they used to go off hunting and shooting pheasants or whatever was around here 300 or 400 years ago, deer probably still back then, they would, the night before, they'd be in the pub and they'd store all their arms in an arms room there to keep them dry and have them ready, and I guess so that the boot boy could have them polished and ready to rock and roll or whatever they were doing the next day.
So would they have boxing matches there? Boxing matches? Like, I know here at some of the armories, they used to hold Golden Glove boxing matches.
Did they?
Back in the day, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of fighting all the time. All the time, so I assume so. I don't think they'd need to be near a pub to just have a punch-up, but I think it'd probably help because at least you could have a drink afterwards, couldn't you? And actually, speaking of pubs and having a drink afterwards, was I going on about this the other week? I watched The Quiet Man with John Wayne, and did I mention this the other week? Am I repeating myself? Have I hit that age where I don't know what... I was watching The Quiet Man with a John Ford film. He's really noted for making westerns, and if you get into westerns, I hate them when I was younger, but like I've said before, yeah, and it's set in Ireland, and John Wayne plays this boxer who goes back to his hometown in Ireland because his mother told him, but his mother's died while they were in New York, and he became a prize fighter, and he's killed someone in the ring. And but nobody in this village knows. And he's going back to really get away from all that, and because his mum told him all these great tales of where they lived. And it's like this clash between an urbane American boxer and this Irish village that's got all these wonderful quirks. And it's old-fashioned in a way, and it's slow-paced by today's standards, but it's got a big heart in it. And Maureen O'Hara is in it, and she's absolutely stunning in the film. Her hair is so bright, flaming red orange. I can't believe it when I saw it. I thought, that's not dye. I think it really was true. And it's just got all these wonderfully wacky interactions in it. She's extremely flighty and is prone to wrath almost instantaneously over anything. She's an absolute spitfire of a woman, and he's trying to tame her, and it's hilarious in parts. Anyway, there's a massive punch-up between him and her brother, because she hasn't got a dad, and her brother won't give her away in marriage, and he's furious about things, and he's a big lad played by this great American actor's got a face as if it's been hit by an anvil. I can't remember his name. Very tough-looking guy. And he's bigger than John Wayne, but he's a bit heavier, and a bit older. And they just have this big punch-up. It's great. I don't know why I mentioned all this. Has this got anything to do with the state of politics?
The prize fighting.
Probably not.
Yeah, no, the pub. We're talking about the pub.
Yeah.
That was a John Ford movie. He was known for doing Western-type movies. The cowboy walks into the saloon, grabs a beer, and then punches somebody in the face kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. It was good. John Wayne looked fantastic in it as well, and it was just a different role for him altogether. And there's a wonderful scene. It's really fantastic. It's very funny. I have said this. I'm sure I'm repeating it. Oh, bugger it. I've started now. They go into this town, and she wants her dowry, but her brother's hanging on to all her gold or something. It's a tradition. She's got to have what she owns when she goes into marriage, and he won't give it to her because he's all furious with John Wayne for some reason. It doesn't really matter. So she accuses John Wayne of being a coward. She doesn't know at this point that it really is a boxer and he killed someone. She didn't know any of this. So she's basically winding him up. He doesn't want to start fighting again because he's frightened he might kill someone, I guess, in part. And so she kicks him out of the carriage and rides off home, which is like 5 or 6 miles away, and he has to walk back. Anyway, he gets her, or he goes back in the town, he gets hold of her, and he makes her walk back. And he's kicking her all the way. It's hilarious. It's really funny. And all the townsfolk are chasing them. And this woman comes up to him at one point, and she says, "Sir, here's a stick to hit the nice lady with." They actually want him to keep beating her up as he's knocking her home. It's fantastic. And she's all very polite about it. "Here's a nice stick, sir, to hit the fair lady with." "Okay, thanks very much." Whack. Very good. It's crazy. Really good film. So Exo's written wrong definition of arms. We've got it wrong. Have we got it wrong? We might have got it wrong. Wrong definition of arms. Armaments, I don't really know. Yeah, okay. Well, we're waiting, Exo, with bated breath. What's the right definition?
A little tidbit about John Wayne. He was born in the state south of Minnesota, in Iowa.
Yeah.
It's about the only thing that there's some other celebrities that have a claim to fame, out there, but not many.
You know what Iowa stands for, don't you?
Tell me.
I owe the world an apology.
Cornfields. There's a movie by Alfred Hitchcock called North by Northwest, where this airplane comes out of nowhere and starts shooting at.
We know. Cary Grant, who's got a nice suit on at the start of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Judy. Yeah, Cary, great guy. Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic scene. It's a fantastic scene, but even by today's standards, it's tame, isn't it? But it works because if you watch it back, we've watched it 3 or 4 times. The music in that film as well by Bernard Herrmann is outstanding. It's so good. It just gives the whole thing a lift. And
he's the one that did the soundtrack for Psycho.
Yes,
famous,
he did.
the shower scene.
He did. He worked a lot with Hitchcock. Him and Hitchcock worked on a lot. Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't like Taxi Driver as a film. But the music's fantastic. Yeah, I think, but that scene, with the crop sprayer, I've watched it several times, and it's so slow in the build-up, and that's the whole thing. He's just stood there, and that bus comes, and then it disappears. Anyway, we won't bang on. It's like a film club otherwise, but really, it's a cracking film. It's really good. The music's brilliant. And all the mistaken identity thing. And apart from which, everybody looks fabulous because they're all in their 50s and all wearing suits. My sons go, "Can I get a suit like that?" I'm going, "Probably not now. They probably don't make them anymore. Get one out of nylon." But everybody just looks great. I think they look great. The cars look great. Everybody looks good. So that's nice. If you like that sort of thing, and I obviously do. Yeah.
I don't want to pick on Iowa too much.
You just did. You ruined it. They're coming round, Paul, to your house.
No, Iowa does have one thing going for it. They have massive amounts of wind farms in Iowa. And the reason for that is because it's a very windy state. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is Minnesota sucks and Missouri blows. So it's covered. they're getting a little help from their neighbors, or a little help from their friends, anyways.
Hey, I'm just by the way, on arms, Exo did put a thing in and I missed it. Sorry about that, Exo. So he's responding to Billy Silver's question, And Exo writes, this is interesting. Another thing to consider, I believe, it's a belief, is it? I don't mind. I believe the pub name regular, which is Arms, ARMS, which is obviously known, was more a twist of Arms, ALMS, or an almshouses, which from medieval times meant a place for soldiers on the move to rest and get fed, etc. A place of rest, like a hospice or something, an almshouse. Interesting. I suspect it's a bit of both. I mean, I don't think that would have been with regards to the blacksmith arms, but there's the King's Arms. No one has ever done one called the Queen's Arms, I don't think, because it implies they're sort of vast and muscular and hairy. Maybe they were. And there's the blacksmith's arms. I don't know. Can't think of anybody else who's got arms that would be on a pub name. The King's Head, by the way, is the most, I think, or it used to be the most popular name of all pubs in England. There were more King's Heads than anything else. And it's really named after Charles I. Because he lost his, as you know. Well, he didn't actually lose it. Somebody took it from him. But you get the drift. I think that's where it comes.
The Glorious Revolution?
No, that's later
when was
than that. So later? Charles I is Cromwell, mid-1600s. Glorious Revolutions after that, leading up to William of Orange, which is 1690s. And Orange, Billy of Orange was another placeman brought in by the globalists of the day. Let's put it like that. Okay. So, and that led to the Orange Men in Northern Ireland. And it was part of that conflict because Cromwell was not good in Ireland. It wasn't good for this nation either, in my view, but there you go. And so that's where that sectarian divide in Ireland got really entrenched because Cromwell, there's a thing called Drogheda, which was a massacre by Cromwell's troops that went over there. And there's a lot to it. So I don't want to make swift, firm decisions about it. It's worth looking into if you want to know about how they operated at the time. It's not particularly chivalrous in my view, but there you go. Yeah.
Speaking of chivalry, let's football. When did football become the sport over there in the UK? When was that? What's the origin of that?
There is an old form of football that that they still play in a kind of quaint, sometimes gets quite serious way between villages. Now, I don't know what they would have actually used as the football at the time. Maybe it'd been a cabbage, or it might have been sort of like the head of an animal. I'm quite serious. It could have been something like that. I don't know the history on this. But what two villages would have, I say a game, but it would be the entire village. And so huge numbers of men would be on one side, a bit like a massive rugby scrum. Okay, and they sometimes reenact, or maybe they still carry on with these things, right? So, and the idea is to move the ball to the one end of the town or something, and the other side is trying to stop you. That's it. It could go on all day. So that's why you probably need a pub, because you get hot and sweaty. You need to go for a beer in the middle of the match and come back. That goes back hundreds of years. But then there was a form of football with 11 men aside being played during the 1800s. But then the rules, I think, were formalized by the Football Association in the 1880s, I think. I'm guessing. It might have been like the 1890s. But the sport was known. But then they structured leagues and all that, and then professional leagues came on. I guess pretty much around the same time that you got professional baseball leagues as well in the States.
Sure, and then football.
Yeah.
Football too, American football.
But that's a college game, isn't it, football? Right. Which is interesting because so football is created out of your educational establishment, and over here rugby is created out of the educational establishments here at Rugby College or wherever it was, where Tom Brown went in Tom Brown's school days, and apparently created rugby according to the author. But a boy did pick a ball up in a football match where you kick it and picked it up and ran with it into the goal, and they thought, oh, maybe we've got a game here. So that too was created out of yeah, seriously, that's how that one came about.
Wow.
So
yeah, as far as education, the universities and whatnot are known for their American football teams, but not so much their baseball teams. So it's an oddity. Yeah. I wonder why that is too.
I know.
Yeah. College football is definitely much bigger than any other sport. We've got about 5 minutes left of the show, or just under. I'm wondering if anybody in the Radio Ranch crew has a question or a comment on anything that we've talked about so far today. I have opened the floodgates. All you have to do is press *6 and you can unmute yourself. I see that Sketch has his hand up. He's probably got a comment. Sketch, if you've got something to say, speak now or forever hold your peace, dude.
We'll probably overrun, Paul, just to let you know. We'll overrun. We're definitely going more than 2 hours tonight, I can tell you. We'll be going on for a bit after this. But, yeah. Sketch, sorry, I interrupted you because I tend to do that sort of thing. Hi.
Oh, that's okay, Paul. I just wanted to say that I was born in the middle of Texas, Midland, Tumbleweed City, and I really enjoyed your show today. And I just wanted to say, y'all come back now here.
I'd love to. I'd love to go to Texas.
Well, bless your heart. Yeah.
And there's
you don't really talk like that.
And no, Sketch doesn't really talk like that. Hey, Rick, say hello from Georgia, where I'm going to be moving to.
I was born in Texas, and I can turn it on when I want to.
Want to. I like that. I'm gonna have to. I want to nail that one down. It's great. It's really good. I do like it. Just going back to football, just to let you know. You were asking me where it originated from. So the Kingston Whittler. Hi, the Kingston Whittler says they still play what I was describing. I haven't described it exactly accurately. It's just like a massive wall of people, right? So that's what it is on both sides. He says they still play football between parishes in Alnwick in Northumberland. Northumberland being in the northeast of England, where they've got a great university, or are known for one. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Absolutely.
We have a number of people with us. We've got Sherry from Arkansas. We've got Sheldon from Washington. Andy from Wisconsin. Beverly. I'm not quite sure where Beverly's is. She's in the Carolina area somewhere. And then we've got Jesse. He kind of sort of splits his time between Michigan and Florida, I believe. Lee, that would be in Pennsylvania. And Rick, he'd be in Georgia. Sketch, he'd be in Oregon. Jimmy in Georgia. Lisa in Ohio. Robbie, I'm not exactly sure where Robbie is, but we love him anyway. We've got literally people connected to us that could talk to us if they wanted to talk to us. From pretty much four corners of the globe.
We're gonna run on past the show. We got 4 minutes here still on WBN. And we'll be winding out as we do, but we'll carry on for a little bit after that because we just will, I think there's some momentum, so we're going to do that. Nice little question. It's still on the sports stuff. This is not meant to be about sports, but, we're just having a chinwag here. About the shape of the rugby ball. Who invented the funny-shaped balls? It's a rather personal question. Interesting. It says interesting that the NFL stole that ball shape. Well, I don't know if "stole's" the right word because it's different, isn't it? Obviously, the NFL ball or the American football ball is designed to be thrown. When was it? Was it thrown right from the beginning? Did quarterbacks always throw the ball forward in the way? Was that right in the beginning of those rules, or did they add that later on? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Bloody useless.
I'd assume it's always been thrown by the quarterback. I know to begin the game, they flip a coin to see who goes. It's not like basketball where they throw it up in the air and then they swat it to their team. What's that?
Rick, you had a comment on the shape of the football? Go on, Rick.
It's not always been thrown.
Oh.
Right.
That was a new rule. The forward pass was a new rule.
It's the thing that, that's interesting. I can imagine. Well, I mean, you got to think.
It's in the name football. So.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing that English Brits always gone about this, but they don't use their feet. Why do they call it football? Why do they? Nobody. All right, the kicker kicks it once, but he's the guy that gets the least beat up. Everybody else is getting beat up. The kicker just comes on immaculate and kicks it. That's probably not true. He probably does get beat.
Wouldn't the game be hilariously funny if they played American football like soccer? It would be hilariously funny. That ball would be going everywhere. Nobody would know where
I
it was
thought you
going.
meant, wouldn't it be funny if when there was a tackle in American football, they pounced about like prima donnas going, oh, my ankle, and all this kind of stuff. It's just embarrassing as they're all pleading with the referee for a free kick in soccer, as you would call it. It is. It's appalling. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be played by people that knew what they were doing, you know. So anyway, what can we say? Hey, look, there's
saving 20 seconds left.
No, we got a minute left. I'm just going to do the closeout chat here. So, thanks everyone on WBN for being with us for the last 2 hours. I'm just going to mute everybody else as I just do the wind out. So we'll be back again at the same time next week, and we'll see you then. Bye for now. All right. Hey, I got my wind out wrong. I started it a minute late. What an idiot. Oh, that was desperately pathetic. That's just ridiculous.
That's what I said. We got 20 seconds left.
Yeah, I thought, what's he talking about? Then I looked at the minutes and went, oh, he's accurate. Oh, God.
Hey,
I'm great.
I'm nothing if I'm not punctual.
You know why they don't pay me? It's because I'm not a pro. I'm just completely buggering it around all the time. It's fantastic. So there we go. Anyway, we're chugging along.
Half the fun.
Yeah, I know. It is half the. It's all the fun. It's all the fun. Anyway, I don't have to do any more announcements because everybody who's here knows where we're still on Radio Soapbox, by the way, chugging along for a bit, and we're still in Rumble. And if you've never joined us on Rumble, I would suggest you might want to, because the chat's always buzzing and it's great, and there's lots of cracking stuff in there from just about everybody making great points and stuff like that. Was there something else I was going to say? There probably was, but I don't know what it is right now. So swiftly moving over to you, Paul, whilst I try.
This is Jesse.
We're still on Global Voice Network. There is no chat, but there is crisp and clean audio, if I do say so myself.
Well done. Right. Oh, yeah, we're still on Global. Sorry, Paul, I didn't mention it. So, yeah.
Paul, this is Jesse.
Hi.
I have a question. Are they rating the? How you doing? Are you rating? Are they rating the small farms from in England? Because of recently here in Michigan, they just rated another farm like they've been doing most states like Pennsylvania, and I'm gonna put in the chat room, and you see how they're forcing the two workers to throw $90,000 of cheese and yogurt, each costs about $15, and you see them in the dumpster, and you see those agents of agriculture just standing there and writing down everything, throwing one by one.
Oh yeah, they're destroying the food supply everywhere.
I've seen that. Yeah, I saw that video clip of them destroying cheese, which was enough. I was very close to actually trying to hijack a fighter jet from RAF wherever and fly over and slaughter. You can't destroy cheese. It's completely not.
When was this? When was this? I missed this one.
About a month back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I just put in the chat room. You can see them by Instagram, but
Right.
my daughter used to buy from them, and it was one of the most delicious things. And they're just like Paul says, they're just trying to destroy the food supply. Anything that has to do with the small farmers is just ridiculous.
Well, they're squeezing in all sorts of other ways. I heard on George Hobbs, who was on Radio Soapbox earlier today. He is a chicken farmer. He was talking about how many chickens they've just destroyed recently, 6 million or something. Now, there are 16 billion on the planet. No, it's more than that. Was it 60 million or 600 million? 600 million. That was it. That's more like it, not 6 million. 600 million had gone. And, of course, they're saying, all they do is they say, well, this one's got bird flu, which is another artificially made up pile of crap, and who cares? And then they use it as a causative reason to wipe out the entire herd. I know that it's not a herd of chickens, I just used the word wrongly, but they wipe them out. So yeah, they're waging war on us, and we have got to get into that language. That's what they're doing, and they are squeezing the farmers over here. I mean, we've talked about it here before, and we're going to keep on talking about it, but we've also got to find some action. There's no reason why the earth, managed properly, as it used to be, could not produce for everybody. So it's obvious they don't want food around, and they're doing Ukraine 2.0. they're using an organized famine as a causative reason to wipe people out and control them. Of course, no one has really any idea, but
everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And he was also talking about John Deere. They want to get rid of people, so they push the whole sin of sodomy agenda.
Right.
And that's the biggest tractor company in the United States is John Deere down in Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, what are they doing with them specifically, Patrick? I mean, John Deere is known over. I know Deere. Is that right? That's how it's
spelled? Exactly. That was the name of the founder.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're one of those pieces of kit that are iconic in your culture, aren't they? Like we have Land Rovers over here. These are things that you just go, well, everybody rates them because they bloody work. So John Deere's got that kind of a reputation. It's just absolutely solid as a rock. Yeah.
In Italy, the tractor company there is Lamborghini. Everybody knows Lamborghini.
I know, yeah.
So.
It is. Well, we've talked here about, I don't know if you've seen, there's a guy over here called Jeremy Clarkson. He used to, you can say it's not quite, he's great. He's very funny. He comes from my neck of the, he's very brusque in a way and very sort of direct, but he's very bright.
Top
and
gear.
he's absolutely top gear. So they would go and, sometimes drive those Lamborghini sports cars. But the thing he's been doing for the past couple of years is a thing called Clarkson's Farm. Amazon, of course, have been shelling out a lot of money for the series, but it's fabulous. It's really good. He owns a farm in and around the Cotswolds somewhere. It's pretty for England. It's pretty big. I don't know, 2,000 acres. It might be tiny by American standards, but it's pretty big for England. And he's done everything, and pigs and goats and lambs and cows and honey and nettle, all these things. And he has a Lamborghini tractor. That's what I was coming around to saying.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually has one, and he goes, of course he drives it as if he's a motoring journalist. Let's really get this thing going. Of course, so it turns into a motoring show when he gets into his Lamborghini tractor. But yeah,
very nice.
Mm.
I just heard up in Canada they want to get rid of people so bad that they're giving out free birth control to women now. That's totally. I'm reading this tweet by Chrystia Freeland, who's the second in command under Trudeau.
Yeah.
That we are making birth control free in Canada. Women will never again have to factor contraception into their monthly expenses.
Because, there's just too many of us. Of course, there aren't too many of us. We're down to, 11 or 12% of the world's population, our people. And so all these lands that we've actually made bountiful to a greater or lesser degree. I know that Canada is vast and probably much of it is very challenging to live in productively, but there's a huge belt, the bit just north of you guys is obviously where all the action is in terms of producing food, I would have thought, purely from a climate point of view.
They imported a lot of Ukrainians here at the end of the war, World War II, that knew how to farm. And in Ukraine, that's the big thing, farming,
And what are they attacking? So they're attacking Ukraine. Ukraine is known as the bread basket of Europe. It was known as that. Massively productive land. But of course, they're selling it all off to people. I don't know if Gates has bought some and all this, that, and the other. We've got to get these bastards. There's no other way to put it, right? It's not a threat. I've got no power. These people have got to be brought up. They've got to be incapacitated. I don't mean killed. I mean, they've got to be put in a situation where they can't do any more harm. Easier said than done, right? But that's what we're facing. I mean, we don't need to analyze it anymore, do we? We don't need to analyze it anymore. We know we can see what's going on. What the problem we're facing is how to act, and we've got to learn to do that. I was actually on a show with Eric on Sunday, Eric von Essex. Hi, Eric. I know you're in there doing things. He does a show on Sunday nights, and we've been sending it out over Radio Soapbox, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., sometimes a little bit longer on Sundays. And he invited me on Sunday just gone, and I wasn't on for the whole show because life. But he had a guy called Nathan who was talking a lot about, you know this thing, I forgot, during the COVID thing, I've got the book here, I need to look it up. A guy wrote a book about the psychology processes that were taking place throughout the COVID thing. Do you remember that? The Psychology of Totalitarianism by Matthias Desmet. Does that ring a bell?
No. But it was totalitarian what they did.
It was
locking down
2022. I've got the PDF. If I guess if anybody wants it, I'll stick it in the Telegram chat so you can get a hold of a copy. I've read about 30, 40 pages of it. It's really interesting. It's about why people comply with authority, and it's taken to a much deeper level. And I've forgotten the phrase, but it was that mass... what was that thing? Mass something. Do you remember that phrase? And it's run out of my head right now. Somebody might type it in the chat. Mass psychosis almost, or something like that. Why people are just
mass
complying.
hysteria.
Yeah, that's not the exact word, but there's something in there. And he's analysing that and breaking it down. And interesting, the first bit, there's this very interesting point, I found it interesting anyway, about crowds, about large numbers of people that are going against things. Us lot, for example. So we all know something needs to be done. And what happens is the larger the crowd gets, the less likely anything will be done. Why? Because everybody in the crowd is what they're going, well, the crowd's getting bigger. Surely someone's going to start something. I'll wait and see what it is. But that belief is getting more entrenched in everybody in the crowd the bigger it gets. So as it gets bigger, the chances of it happening are reducing. It's getting worse because, well, there's so many of us now. Someone's going to start something off. We're going to kick off, or that's it. So it's a very interesting dynamic, the way that we operate when we're in groups. And we were talking about this the other day, and I bet you found this in real life. You know, if you get together face to face with people, once you get beyond 7 or 8 people, it can get very problematic because people want to talk, so you can't talk to 7. So you get 2 clusters, and then you get 3, and then it begins. 5 months go by, and people leave and stuff. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just observing it. It happens. I bet we've all seen it. Like office politics, that kind of stuff. It's exhausting, isn't it? But it happens.
Ritual. That's why we have ritual in churches. You have a priest, and there's a set course that happens every Sunday where you do the same thing over and over again. Where you read from the Bible and you perform the various rituals, and you're in a big crowd, so it must be the way to do things for a big crowd, because otherwise it just turns into a big public meeting house, and factions and parties form naturally, and that's harder to manage and control.
Yeah.
Paul,
I suppose
I've got the phrase, by the way,
referring-
Paul. Let me just shout that. Thanks, Ether. Again, brilliant. Mass formation. Does that ring a bell now?
Yes,
Yeah,
mass
mass formation.
formation
That was it.
psychosis.
Yeah, and that's the guy. Matthias is the guy that was talking about that. And so if anybody wants the whole document, I'll stick it in the Telegram group, and you can pick. I'm not going to do it now, but after the show's finished, I'll put it in there. And it's pretty nippy book. I think it could be useful. So, because I'm interested in trying to find out. We've got to change something that we do, it seems to me, or we've got to stop doing something that we're doing so that the tone of what's taking place changes, because we're having a comfortable chat here. But if they keep carrying on and they are showing no signs of wanting to stop with destroying the food supply under these lies, we've got to set it up in a situation that it becomes unbearable for them to do that. I don't know how to express, but that it must hurt them a lot if they keep doing this. We have to find a way where they begin to endure pain, anything necessary to cause them to change their behavior, because we'll run out of options because we'll be dead.
And the Fed.
Let's be very clear. What they've done is they've declared war on the people. And if they've declared war on the people, then the rules of engagement apply for both sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we need to start ignoring them.
Well, we need to start really paying attention to one another more fully. I agree with you. I mean, I don't think we can ignore it totally, but it's a disproportionate part, I think, of the ongoing conversation. I've been thinking this for about a year now. Actually, and I've mentioned it here before, and you've no doubt thought the same thing, and probably most of the rumblers have thought it as well. Is, do I really need to know any more? You don't, actually. All you're getting is the updated version of the evil, but you know the principles at play. They want something that doesn't include us, and that's not on. I'm not interested in what they want. If they want it, why don't they go get a few islands and they can just arse about until the cows come home? Well, there won't be any cows for them because they'll have killed them all off, but you get the idea. But we don't want that, so we have to strengthen ourselves. We're going to have to do it under God's law, because if we try to do it without God's law, we're all going to be arguing with one another again. It won't work. It never works. It can't work because somebody goes, I'm cleverer than everybody else. You need to listen to me. And we go, but it's not about cleverness. It really isn't. It's actually about getting clear. It's like I was saying about the washing up. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you're doing something that's part of it, it adds. Everybody's contribution adds the same amount because you're doing it as part of the team. And it's difficult to hold teams together as well. That's what we're talking about. It is. It's not easy. And everybody will have known it, politicking and people talking behind each other's backs and all that kind of stuff. And it's exhausting. And you're going, oh, my God. And then you understand why armies have to have absolute rigorous discipline to stop that sort of crap building up, because if it builds up, you end up dying in battle. And that's not really the outcome that anybody wants. It'll be very bad for you. So it's evolving, I think, what we do or what we think we're up to. And, we mentioned local politics and we mentioned local connections. And I, as I said, in my pitiful way, I just talk to everybody I see. Literally everybody when I'm out walking. I did a lot of walking today. I've walked about 6 miles today. I had to do all sorts of things. And I've really enjoyed it. And I bumped into people all over the place. Somebody was picking blackberries down the Snicket here. And I was asking them if they would bake me a blackberry and apple pie, and they didn't seem to be quite keen to do that. It was a bit upsetting, really. I said, "Oh, these are great. We're getting on really well." I said, "Can I have a blackberry and apple pie?" Then they went, "Well, I could leave my card at the end of there," but they didn't mean it. I said, "Well, leave me your number." I said, "If I bring you some blackberries, I haven't got time to bake one." But and then I met another woman down the thing, and I mentioned it to her, and she said, "Oh, yeah." And everybody stares off into the mid-distance over and got blackberry and apple pie. See, it doesn't take much with human beings. It's like American apple pie. You just go, "Oh, yeah, I bet you do." I bet you just go, "Oh, yeah, I'd like a slice of that. That'd be great." So, yeah.
Cheesecake.
Oh,
give me cheesecake. Or give me death. This is the way it is.
Well, the problem we're having is how to awake the minority of people until they don't lose their jobs or lose something. A lot of people, when I talk one-to-one, say, nobody's taking my gun away from you. And I always tell them, they already take your woman, they have taken your food, they have taken your house, they have taken your money, and you're still renting that until they take your guns.
Yeah,
and at the same time, you're being vaccinated, and they taking your
I
farms.
was talking about
what
Christia
it takes
Freeland
for
up
them
in
to wake up.
Canada. Up in Canada, Christia Freeland, right? She's the same woman that wanted lockdowns, and they got it to the point where you couldn't come in and out of Canada without a vaccination card proof that you'd taken the vaccine. And that's what drove people to protest. And this woman was behind a lot of those policies up there that drove people to that point where it's just too much and they can't take it. And then the next thing happens and it's like, okay, well then we're going to war with Ukraine. She's from Ukraine, and she's, they bring in these people that want war. That's what they do. If they can't control you one way, they'll take you to war. And then all the fighting men, it's just a common thing that men just want to go out and fight or serve some purpose to their lives. And that's what they play on. That's why these sports are such a big deal. Our college sports, like my brother is in football, the biggest financial backer for the college football teams are the military, because it's a recruiting ground. These college teams and the colleges.
Well, it's a training ground.
Yeah.
Football is a contact sport. It's a battleground. You fight for yardage. And the goal at the end, the pigskin goes through the uprights, but make no mistake, it is a training ground for the military. I think it's a recruiting ground.
Yeah, I can see that. I think we need a military. If you actually had a blank sheet of paper, it would have evolved pretty much the way it did. It's just that all of these institutions now are corrupted. The nervous system, the control system of them.
We need the labor of the men. The men that would be in the military to work for peaceful purposes, and to root out the people that want to take them to war. Yeah. That's the key. If we can do that, that's just it. You got to give them a pastime that they can think about that will lead them in that direction, it seems.
because the media is all centered around this stuff.
If you really think about football, okay, there's a bunch of players on the team, and they all have things that they do. There's the kicker, there's the quarterback, who could be called the field general and whatever. There are the forwards, there are the blockers, and they follow the instructions of the team captain, and the team captain follows instructions from the coach, who would be the president. It is a military operation.
Yeah, I remember when my brother was being recruited, these coaches are some of the highest paid public officials in our state. And they sit and fly around from town to town, going to high school football games.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's, all expenses paid by taxpayers. It's really weird when you think about it.
And that says nothing about the video games that are training for homicidal and psychotic warlike behavior, and they are teaching the gamers how to think in exactly that way. Well, if I get up to at least 55 miles an hour before I jump the curb, I can kill this hooker in Grand Theft Auto.
Hmm.
Yeah,
please,
that's a whole nother thing.
Give me a break.
Yeah, it's non-stop. It's from every direction, really. The sort of bombardment of the mind, or whatever you want to call it, is thorough. And of course, they've been able to do this because everybody that works on that side gets paid at the end of the month. That's the
yes, they do.
They just get paid.
I remember
this and that's
important. During the George Floyd riots, this goes to the whole racial question. When my brothers were in their college classes and their football, they're in their football team meetings. Yep. There was one time during the whole George Floyd thing where they said, we're going to have a meeting now, and none of the white players can talk during this meeting. So if you're white, you can't talk or raise any questions at all. Let's talk about conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of mentality and level that they take it to in these higher ups.
With the advent of things going on, and now that we're off WBN, but we're still on Rumble, and we're still on Global Voice Network, I want to talk for a moment about national status and Roger Sales and the Radio Ranch. Check out the Radio Ranch. Go to thematrixdocs.com. It is on eurofolkradio.com Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's on Global Voice Network from 11 a.m. to sometime after that. Just depends on when Roger leaves. And the national status is, it is a way to step out of the administrative state and the administrative rulemaking and protect you from things like the draft, from like mandated vaccines, from like child protective services or adult protective services. It will protect you from all those things by pulling you out of that fictional corporate system that has been controlling your life for the entirety of it. That is thematrixdocs.com or nationalsonly.com. You'll find links for the radio programs. You will find links to be able to join us on either free conference call or Zoom. We've got room for 1,500 people to join us on the phone, and every single one of you could speak up and speak your mind or ask a question. We've got room for you. Come on down. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. No, good pitch. Right. Maybe need to get Roger back on again. It's several months since he was on here. We did a cracking show, actually. I really enjoyed it because it was kind of a simplified conversation of things, which I'm kind of keen on because I'm looking for things, obviously, that you get rapid traction with people that don't know much. That's the challenge as well. I think one of the aspects of the communications challenge is not just that, it's the sheer scale of it. That's the problem. It's firepower. You go, yeah, well, we're getting out to this number of people, and they've got so much on the other side, and that's why they kind of have been indifferent to us for so long. But of course, they're tightening the net. However, I understood what Roger was was on about, and what he was up to. Stop mixing my words up. When we did that show, I really got it. So it's good stuff. So yeah, great pitch. Let's take a musical break, shall we? I think it's time for Bernard Cribbins, Paul.
There we go.
Bernard. So here we go.
Think of the monkeys. Think of the monkeys.
Hello.
Actually, is it Bernard or is it Bernard?
It's Bernard. Yeah, Bernard. It's bloody Bernard. It's only a couple of minutes wrong. It's only a couple of minutes long. Everybody in England will know this one. It's a comedy song from the 1960s. Here we go.
Right, said Fred, both of us together, one each end and steady as we go. Tried to shift it, couldn't even lift it. We was getting nowhere, and so we had a cup of tea. And right, said Fred, give a shout for Charlie. Up comes Charlie from the floor below. After straining, heaving and complaining, we was getting nowhere, and so we had a cup of tea. And Charlie had a think, and he thought we ought to take off all the handles and the things what held the candles, but it did no good. Well, I never thought it would. All right, said Fred, have to take the feet off to get them feet off. Wouldn't take a mo. Took its feet off, even took the seat off. Should have got us somewhere, but no. So Fred said, let's have another cup of tea, and we said, righto. All right, said Fred, have to take the door off, need more space to shift the so-and-so. Had bad twinges, taking off the inches, and it got us nowhere, and so we had a cup of tea. And right, said Fred, have to take the wall down, that there wall is gonna have to go. Took the wall down, even with it all down, we was getting nowhere, and so we had a cup of tea. And Charlie had a think, and he said, look, Fred, I got a sort of feeling if we remove the ceiling with a rope or two, we could drop the bladder through. All right, said Fred, climbing up a ladder with his crowbar, gave a mighty blow. Was he in trouble? Half a ton of rubble landed on the top of his dome. So Charlie and me had another cup of tea, and then we went home. I said to Charlie, we'll just have to leave it standing on the landing, that's all. You see, the trouble with Fred is he's too hasty. Now, you never get nowhere if you're too hasty.
Right, said Fred with Bernard Cribbins. There we go. Absolutely. I that was one of the songs that was regularly on British radios in the 1960s. I actually think we even had the record in the house when I was a kid. So he made a few of those sorts of comedy things. They did some animation stuff. So, yes, that's very typical. That's very close to the mood of the monkey piano movers in those adverts. All those ads are available on YouTube somewhere, PG Tips, monkey adverts, if you're into that sort of thing. And if you weren't before this show, no doubt you can't wait to get over and start watching them. So they were pretty good, though, at the time. They're probably chronically dated in retrospect now, but lots of fun at the time. Yeah. That's it then. Too much monkey business. Yeah,
we've gone so many different places. Where to go now?
I don't know. I just want to catch up on a couple. I'm just thinking a couple of little comments here. Ether wrote in. He says Matthias Desmet ripped it off his book from earlier work. I think called The Madness of Crowds. Yeah, I've got that. It's a good book, that by Charles Mackay, written early 1900s. Is it? Might be. Oh, it's 18. No, it might be even older than that. About the madness of crowds, which talks about things like the tulip thing and all these great, where people go berserk, because there's a great rush in markets and how they behave. So that's still relevant to this day. Charles Mackay's book, The Madness of Crowds. I've got that somewhere kicking around as well. And he says he disagrees with certain parts. So or she does, Ether, I don't know, and you don't have to tell me. So I'm going to try and plow through a bit more of it, because I like the way he wrote, actually. So I haven't got to a point that I disagreed with yet, but there may be some. However, if it's useful, what's the point in reading it? Well, the point is that if we can actually change what we focus on and do things to overcome what are going to be natural hurdles with crowds and everything, then I'd like to know how to do it. This whole thing about marching and protests, and I was talking about this on Eric's show on Sunday, just gone with Nathan. I would never go on one, because I just see it as a surveillance exercise for the other side, which is really what it is. And like we were mentioning earlier, nothing can come of these things, because everybody thinks that I think they're good in one sense, which is that they do indicate to people that they're not alone, and that's encouraging and puts a bit of steam in everybody's stride for a bit. But if you don't do anything with it, it's just like a little blip. You go, that was nice, and then it goes back to the default position again. So it's knowing how to not only stop the power that these people are wielding, we have to learn how to stop it, but the main thing is to learn how to gather up our own, but it's got to be under the law, because if it's not, it'll just fall. It's just what they're doing. We know best, and we've got to say we don't know best, but we've actually got the book that does, or we've got the laws that do, and if we stick with those, let's see what happens. And I think it's absolutely vital, because I don't think they like it being around us when we're actually conforming with the actual law. It reduces the possibility for, I don't know, corruption, intellectual and spiritual infection. All of those things are reduced massively once we start to behave in a strong, clean, clear-lined way, I think.
The Chevron decision is huge. The U.S. Supreme Court in overturning Chevron, that's absolutely huge, because they used Chevron to give unmitigated power to the administrative state so they could make their own laws, they could seat their own courts, they could administer their own law, and they could do so with impunity and without oversight. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court just overturned that. So they actually have to temper what they do from this date forward with the common law and with the law of the land, the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution. It's a step in the right direction. It's not fixing everything, but it is a step in the right direction. Yep. And really the only thing, globally, slavery is outlawed, okay? Involuntary servitude is outlawed. However, legal by omission is voluntary servitude under contract. When you sign up for a government benefit or a right, a government granted or issued civil right, that comes with a correlative duty. Rights plus duties equal remedies. So if you get rights from the federal government, you owe the federal government a duty. And getting that and performing that duty is the government's remedy. And performing that duty, getting that right is your remedy. Rights plus remedy equals duty. Okay? A person has a right to be in a public space, and they have a right to free speech. But they have a duty to conduct themselves in a respectful manner and to not infringe on the rights of anyone else in that group. That's their duty. It all boils down to rights plus remedies equals, or rights plus duties equals remedy. It's all the same thing. Mm-hmm. But the power is in knowing your own position. You have to know who you are and what you are. And don't let them tell you who or what you are, because that's tyranny. And that's against global law. Don't deal with tyrants. Decide who and what you want to be, and just be it. Make your decision right now, today, and draw that line in the sand.
Yep, I think you're spot on with that. It's about acquiring, in actuality, that force of, let's call it personality, where you do act and are your own sovereign. It stops being an idea, and you communicate in that way. And there is something in spoken words being spoken well and with force, and it's like a training that we're going through to learn it and acquire it, because there's that phrase: all authority in human affairs is assumed. They've assumed it over us to us in a great degree, and we allow it to their assumption to carry on. So these rebuttals that you're talking about are definitely part of the process, and sorting all that kind of stuff out. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
All you got to do is know who you are and have the stones to act like it.
And the team members to keep you, if you're part of a team that's working towards it, I think it's almost vital, because they work as a team. They're sort of like a bunch of pack animals, you know, all these different departments coming at you. You need to have a lot of energy to deal with that. And of course, it's until you've got some indication of the journey that you're about to go on, it's not unreasonable to see why people don't go on it. It is like going into the dark. I mean, many of them don't even know there's a journey they could go into to come out the other side into the light. But there obviously is, and some people are doing it, and that's increasing, and it's building that up. We've got to get. I mean, I feel like we've just got to get a move on there before they poison us all to death, or kill all the chickens off, or all this sort of stuff. And you know, as I said, this UK election, we have this creature now that's going to be even worse than the Conservatives, because he's supposed to be, and the one that'll come in after him will be even worse than that. And we're supposed to get used to this continual decline in the quality, well, the complete absence of communication between us, the people that do most of the living and dying, as it were, and those that just want to organise all that, all for our benefit in a job that we never asked them to do. So it's dissuading them or putting them in a condition where they literally can't operate. They can't do, you know, every time they say things, that we just burst out laughing. Or we're so busy with other things, they just don't even pay any attention to them. When they send their agents out, their agents are treated with complete contempt and ridicule by large numbers of people who reduce their morale so that they don't want to go do this work anymore. Yes. And I'm kind of tapping back into what Solzhenitsyn said. You know, there's that comment from Solzhenitsyn, which is chilling in retrospect, when he talked about all those police, you know, the NKVD and the rest going out in the night and seizing people that they knew were never going to come back. And Solzhenitsyn says, if only this thing, and we're going to head up in the same place if we don't spark each other off sufficiently, it seems to me, because history tends to show this. But he said, when those police guys, the NKVD guys, went out to a flat, they knew that they were going to get battered by people with sticks. Anything. People were just going to come at them, he said, and that they had a very good chance of not going home alive that night. It would have stopped. And it's going to take that. And some of us are going to die in this process. You've got to just accept it, because there's no other way. I mean, I'm at a loss to know. We can sit down and have a reasonable discussion. There isn't one to be had, because they've shown, and we have now seen and gathered the evidence of their intent toward us. And that's not casual. Their intent toward us is long-standing. It's built up. Everything they do is to harm us. And so what would even be the point of a communication with them? We'd be saying to ourselves, oh, we know you've been trying to kill us off and doing a pretty good job, say, in the 20th century. But we think you're actually, if we talk to you nicely, you'll stop. We wouldn't even believe that of ourselves. And it's because we can't confront that thought. It's just tricky.
It's too much like begging. You see, the global population has been trained that if they want something, they have to ask for it, they have to beg for it, and they have to be deserving of it. Well, purely by virtue of the fact that you are a divine creation of God, and under God's laws and God's protection, you are deserving of it. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to beg for it. You can demand it under the authority of God and get it. But you have to believe that you deserve it.
I want to mention one of my favorite Bible translations is the Douay-Rheims version of the Bible. In it, I found that there's a difference between the words that there's the word statute, right? You know what a statute is? It's basically the dictation of some authority. But there's a distinction between a statute and a justification. And what justifications are basically God's law that by doing and obeying it makes a man just. And it's written into the word rather than just statute. Statute can mean whatever, it's more of an arbitrary thing. But a justification implies that by doing it, you're justified in your behavior. And there's a lack of that. We've got plenty of statutes telling us, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that. You got to, like the ULEZ laws that you got now, is an example of that.
Yep.
But they're not justifications. There's no real justice in that. They try to make it seem like, well, it's for the environment, right? Or it's the climate. And it's like, well, that's such a vague thing. It can mean anything. What is it based on? Is it based on some written historical thing set in place by a whole, a higher authority, a supernatural authority? That's what we need to be asking ourselves. Like, is this law that we want placed a just law? And was it promulgated correctly? Meaning, was it given enough time to sit and contemplate the consequences of it once it's put in place?
Mm-hmm.
These are the questions. Like you're saying, Paul, we need more book learning. We need to look at those things because it tells us about our behavior and the behavior of people in the past. And it's a great way of doing that because we can only observe so much of that in our own life day to day that you can't get that second opinion from a third party. Like a book can easily bring you up to speed about how people behave. We need that more from the leaders. We need more leaders that are readers.
Well, the two best-selling books in the original colonies were number 1, the Bible, and number 2, Blackstone's commentaries on the English common law, because everybody was responsible for knowing their way around the law to protect themselves. It's when they turned over their protection to bar attorneys that were actually working for the other side that they started getting screwed. I mean, I could talk for an entire program on this stuff. Do you know where statutes, acts, and codes come from? The words statutes, acts, and codes? Statutes are rules for the likenesses of the living or dead things or dead entities, which is the only thing that a living man would have authority over, because a living man would not have authority over another man, but a living man has authority over a corpse. So the statute is a rule for the likeness of the living, not the living, the likeness of it, or the color of the law. Okay, it's not the law, it's the color of the law. It's similar to the law. Acts are like plays. You go to a court. You have a court action against you. It is all a fiction, and it's all make-believe. And a code is a code of conduct. It is a rule placed upon you because you are part of a group that collectively is covered under that code. It's like if you were an employee at McDonald's, you cannot go to work in shorts and a wife beater and sandals. The code, the dress code, is you must dress with the appropriate uniform to work there. If you don't have that uniform, you don't get to work there. It's a code of conduct, or a rule for somebody less than an authority over their own life. And that is what the whole system is built on. It's built by men under God, so they don't have the authority of God. They only have the authority over lesser men. The point is, when are you going to stop being a lesser man? That's the point. And we'll get there someday. And my soapbox just...
No, it's cracking stuff, Paul. It's spot on. I think when you think, what appears from a distance, or when people, I think, first approach this sort of field, is it's overwhelming, because all the ideas and the way that they're expressed, although they should not be, are kind of new to the ear. And people have not been trained, as it were, or have been allowed to actually be strong. School doesn't do that to you. It makes you absorb blocks of knowledge which are useful for the powers that should not be, for you to be trained in their particular way. And a train just means effectively going down tracks already laid out for you. So there's already going to be some problems there.
I think they teach civics. They don't even teach civics anymore. Law and government, history and government, they don't even teach it anymore. What?
I mean, if you think about universities and the history of them and the build-up of the knowledge and the and everything that's taken place there, we obviously take it for granted that, to some degree, or those that go through higher education establishments, that the structure of courses is, well, maybe we don't take it for granted, but it's something that's seasoned. The way of delivering information to a student and structuring it over 3, 4, 5, 7 years, however long the degree or whatever it may be that you're studying is going to take. That whole sort of trajectory of the mind through that time thing is planned out so that you get to the end of it and they say, you really have, our system has thoroughly trained you or educated you, and you really are qualified to do this because of the way that you've gone through and proven to everybody that you fully understand and grasp particle physics or chemistry or mathematics or whatever it may be. We kind of need something like that. We need something on a simple level. I think we need something like that. I do. I mean, some of us, like I've said before, some people can sit down and you go, here's a 2,000-page book, deal with that, will you? And some people, yeah, all right. But the people that can deal with that are few and far between, because it's it's a lot of energy you use when you really get absorbed into a book. It's a lot. It takes up a lot of time, and of course you do that because you're getting something back from it, and you will get something. You'll be stronger from it. If you can plow through long things. Not that I'm advocating for huge things, but there are some huge books in this world, and some of them may well be worthwhile reading, like, say, Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley, which is about 1,600 pages or something like that. And, you can't just go, hey, do you want to read this? And they go, I don't think so, right? Because they look at it and they go, oh, you're asking a lot. You're asking a lot, or you're inviting them to a big thing. But if we can parcel it up and almost like replicate degree courses, but with this stuff, but in a lighter, faster way, I feel that there must be some way to do that. And yet, therefore, a team, because when you look at people that design courses, there's a lot of people. It takes years to design things sometimes. They go, this is missing. They have to cross-check it. There's a lot of work goes into it. We just take it for granted, in the university system. But they've had tons of money, naturally, and it's attracted the best brains over hundreds of years that have evolved this culture of, so you would have to call it sophisticated education in specific areas. So we might need something that echoes that to some degree, because obviously the radio thing is good in the sense that we're having a free roaming discussion, and it's certainly moved around a lot all over the place, and that's good because we don't want to get stuck on one thing in this kind of space. But there needs to be another type. Maybe there needs to be this structured approach in 15 minutes a day. I know these things, they make me wince as well, but it's getting back to that. And maybe another problem is that once people have left school, they think, oh, I don't need to do any more of that structured learning stuff. Phew, I can go to the King's Arms now and have a pint. That's definitely going on as well,
I don't need to read the book, because if it's under 500 pages, I'll wait for the movie. And if it's over 500 pages, I'll wait for the miniseries. Mm-hmm. And if it's over 1,500 pages, I'll wait for the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me my popcorn.
Yep.
Stop being lazy. People make me crazy sometimes.
Well, I don't think there's anything new under the sun with that. I mean, I think it's human nature. It just happens to all of us. There have all been times when we've sloped off, right?
Right.
That's why you feel really good when you don't, and you go, "Oh, look, I really stuck that one out, and I got that one nailed down," and that's always satisfying. But the people, for every one of those you've done, there's probably 3 times you go, "No, forget it, right. I'm off out."
But
it happens,
in defense of my brothers and sisters on this planet,
mm-hmm.
they have been put under an incredible strain. They have been taxed to death. They have been worked beyond, in many cases, beyond their last breath. And when they get home, I mean, look, well, you wake up, you do the 3 S's, and you hit traffic. Takes you an hour to get to work. You sit there for 8 hours. You've got this little bitty cubicle. You are diminished to like this microscopic little functioning machine that is only there to serve your master. And then you get to fight rush hour, go home. You get to pull something out of the freezer, pop it into the microwave, absolutely kill any any food value in your dinner whatsoever. You sit down for an hour or two of programming TV, and then you go to bed at a reasonable hour so you can wake up the next day and get back on that hamster wheel all over again. Now, people have been put under stresses, and they've been taxed to death, but they can choose to watch an hour of primetime TV and just zone and vegetate in front of a programming device, or pick up a book and figure out what happened. If they do that, instead of camping out in front of that TV, even an hour a night, they can move forward in their own life just a little bit further and a little bit further. And eventually, they may just have the perfect life that they could ever imagine, or a more perfect life than they could ever imagine.
It reminds me of Aristotle again. He I think it was the Metaphysics. He talked about how there are two types of people, two types of men. There are men of action, and then there are men of leisure. Yes. And the men of leisure are the priestly class of people that have the time to sit and design a temple and see how nature works in its fundamentals. Whereas the man of action is always doing something. His mind's always occupied, or he's out hunting or doing something. And there needs to be a sort of a balance between the two, because if you're just a man of leisure and you never get anything done, you have no labor to carry out your ideas. So it's always that's the struggle that we have.
And just remember, the laws of physics. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest. Do you want to be an object at rest, or do you want to be doing something to build tomorrow?
Right.
A better tomorrow.
I
think you probably want to be a bit of both, don't you? I think everybody wants to be a bit of both. I mean, you might have one ground of being. You might say, well, fundamentally, I'm 65% a man of leisure. But I really push it with the action thing, because there is that sort of, what do you do? You go, do you know everything? Yeah. What are you going to do? I don't know. I'm a bit bored now. I mean, challenges are just basically required, because it's the movement. You're talking about action in terms of a physical sense, yeah, but there's also action in your brain. There's movement of thought in your brain. When that stops, you're dead. It's all about motion, isn't it? It's all about it. You get up on a morning and you go, I've got to make a cup of tea. Right, off you go. You're moving. The less you move, the more decrepit life becomes. And you can still find ways, it might be that your knees are bad or whatever, so you don't move so quick. I mean, all these things come to all of us at some point, I guess. But you're always moving something. If you've trained your mind to work well, it will serve you well in later years. And that's why it's important to be able to do those things. It's getting some kind of balance, which is always a bit awkward, because it always sounds as though there's a compromise, and I guess to some degree there is. But I think you do. It's a bit like having these really bookish types that never do any athletics or whatever, and then you just go, mate, you really need to get strong physically. And why can't you be both? Why can't you be sort of, part quarterback, part rocket scientist? That's what we all want, isn't it?
Yeah. Think about it this way. You should contemplate your death every day. Like, you're going to die at a certain point. So it kind of can be an inspiration for making the most of what time you have being attentive and being awake. It's just like, in Catholicism,
I think it does. I think it definitely, I agree with you, Patrick. It definitely does that. And I think that's the reason why it exists. Death. You think, well, why is it? People get all upset about it, and I suppose all of us at some point throughout life go, "Oh, I'd rather not. Thanks very much." And but it compels you to consider it, and there is a very sound sort of developmental reason for it. And then you think, well, why do I need to develop if the death is the complete end? And I come to the conclusion that it could not be.
It's not.
It couldn't be. There's literally. Then everything has no meaning, and yet we operate to develop and build and place meaning into anything we can all the time. Why do you might have done a certain job when you were young to a certain standard. If you keep doing it as you get older, you must make it better. It becomes meaningless to you if you don't. You can't derive that almost ethereal thing called satisfaction from it. which is so fleeting, because once you've done the thing, you go, oh, bugger, I've got to do a better one. But you do. You have to do it. You have to do that if you're going to get meaning out of things, if you're going to have a sense of, resting peacefully at night when you go into the land of slumbers and things. These are very simple things, but they're profound in a way because they run through all of us, and we're all faced with these things. And it doesn't really matter what your challenge is. If it's your challenge and you deal with it, then you've just nudged up, you've just gone another step down the path, and that's a good thing. It's a satisfying thing. Usually it's a satisfying thing. So
The four last things are death, judgment, and then heaven or hell. So it's basically, you think about your final end and then the judgment of what your actions accomplish, whether that's going to lead you to heaven, a heavenly situation of bliss and eternal reward, or hell, which is damnation and just nothingness of misery. And your actions in life kind of bring you to that point. And that's why you need that judgment, that ability to say, hey, I want this to be a better place for the people around me. And if you have children, you have something that you can work toward for helping someone other than yourself. And the powers that should not be that we have controlling things right now, like that Chrystia Freeland I was talking about, they don't even want you to have that. They don't want you to have children. They don't want you to have a future. They want you to just think of the moment and just go to the factory and make your trinkets or whatever it is, and then come home and sleep and then repeat the thing the next day. It's just like they're giving us no options but purposelessness. And we need to restore a purpose to people, to ourselves first, but then we can help other people. We can't help other people. It's like on an airplane, they tell you when the mask comes down, you put that on yourself because you're going to be useless to anybody if you're passed out. To rescue them if there's a plane crash or some turbulence.
Yep.
But definitely we need to actually be inspired and happy with our actions. And that's another thing, the happiness, they kind of want to take that idea away from us, and that's why they give us words like, you take and pervert the language like you were talking before in the Webster's dictionary. Like, I wonder what it says about the word gay in that dictionary.
Carefree, spontaneous joy, I think it is. It's something like that. That's what it is. A light-hearted delight in life. I mean, I'm just defining it for myself, but that's the gist of it. That really is the gist of it.
And isn't that what you want?
Yeah.
Isn't that the state of being that a person wants to be in? Is a state
it's
of
like
happiness?
A sense of being refreshed simply by being alive. You just look around. I mean, I was talking. I think we should wrap up actually in a few. We're nearly at the end of the 3 hours, so we will wrap up very briefly in a few minutes. I was just thinking. As I said, I went on a long walk today. The weather was good. I walked through a park here, which I'd known existed, but I'd never walked through it. And it turned out to be much larger than I thought. And it was just refreshing to walk through a different space. Unfortunately, there were 2 or 3 women in their mid-20s sat down talking. That's not in itself a bad thing. It's just that most of them were covered in tattoos. And it just got me, and I banged on about this and everything. And I thought, of course, when I was a teenager in the 70s, you never saw women with tattoos. It was the most appalling thing.
No, you might have seen some.
You might have seen some at the fairground, the tattooed lady, or something ridiculously stupid like that, literally as a freak show, to appall people, which it did, but not in real life. And it just got me thinking. I was saddened by it. I thought there's a bit of me that's angry about it, and then I'm thinking, I'm casting my mind back to when I was a teenager in the 70s and going, oh no, all the girls then just looked fantastic in comparison to this. I mean, absolutely fantastic in comparison. I didn't think it at the time, but I just thought, because I'm playing football, right? Or trying to play football. Well, or whatever I'm doing. But it's
the rebellion.
It's things like it's this higher culture. Higher is maybe not even the right word. It's our culture expressed well is a delight. it makes you feel lighthearted about life. It puts a kind of fizz and a joy into things that you don't really want to describe with too many words in case you kill it. It's that delicate. It's like something beautiful, like a butterfly. It just comes through and it's brief, but it's magical in a way because it's so perfect, or you experience it as a perfect thing. And to have more moments like that, I don't expect life to be like that all the time. You're going to get contrast because you're going to get contrast, and that's going to happen. But when you see when I saw that, I just thought, oh no, the overall tone of everything it's getting pants, and you can see the decline in our cultural standards in terms of the language that we use and everything.
That
it's
are
all
like
around.
that, Paul.
Yeah,
I have family that have fallen into that and that state, and it's you got to kind of look at it from a different perspective to take away something from it, because it's like they're rebelling against an authority that is actually oppressive, that's been pushed upon us, but they can't articulate it because it's been stolen from them. So you should really it's more of a pity thing for those people that have fallen into that, because it's just like they're obviously want to rebel against the what they consider authority, and it's a perverted authority, really. The things they teach children in school and the media, and they're really rebelling against the ugliness of that's crept in that, and the ungodly behavior in that.
Yeah,
and it's not because they hate goodness. It's because they hate the evil that's actually crept in and has been replaced and said is good to them. That it's been told to them, well, this authority is good, when it's in fact bad.
Yeah, it's a pity they choose
really
tattoos,
pitiful.
though. It really is. It's a lame thing I've just said. But, of course, this is a falling away of the law. Scripture says, don't put any markings on your body. There's a reason for it. I mean, it's a really, it's negative. It infects everything else.
For their lifetime.
It's horrific.
There's
because
no thought of that. There's no warning from their elders about it either.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't guide those people, their children in that way of goodness.
They don't. They've clearly not done that. Absolutely.
It comes across as merely authoritarian
to
them, what's been done. It's not because their parents actually care. It's just because their parents are authoritarian figures to them, and that's it.
Yeah. Hey, we've just gone 11 o'clock here in jolly old England, 1 week of Labour government, and it's all just going exactly as pessimists thought it would. We don't expect anything from them except to be the butt of the jokes that we are yet to write, and the mocking, severe abuse and rebuking that we're going to give to them. So we need to find platforms to do that, so they feel humiliated and worth less than dust, because that is their true state. Thanks, Patrick, for being here. Paul, any last words? I don't mean forever. I just mean for tonight. That's all.
Yeah. Well, we've got about 30 seconds before Global Voice Network times out and resets the stream, and I'm not going to let it do that. So thank you for joining us for Paul English Live on radio.globalvoiceradio.net. Catch us Monday through Saturday at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the Radio Ranch with Roger Sales. For more information on that, go to nationalsonly.com, and you will get all of the links to join us on the show or call in and actually speak with us, Roger and the whole crew. Thanks for joining us. Bye now. Okay, and I caught that just as it shut down. Thank you. Appreciate the handoff.
Cool. All right. Well, we're wrapped up here. We're going to play it with a song because I've decided we're going to do that. This is probably known as the Austin Powers song. It's only a couple of minutes long, but we've had some cheesy good stuff tonight. I've quite liked it.
Yeah.
But, I didn't know what's coming up. You threw some things in. This is by Quincy Jones. It's called Soul Bossa Nova. You will all know it, even if you don't think you know it. I'm pretty sure you'll know it. You will if you've seen the Austin Powers film. It's a fun, zippy, good bit of good music. Let's just shout out to everybody in the chat. Brilliant for being with us all night tonight. Been very lively in there. Yeah, fantastic. Some great comments. It's funny with the chat because it disappears. I often feel like I'd like to go back and reread it all, but it goes into the ethers. And, of course, we have Ether there with the last comment and everything. So thanks for everybody's comments anyway, all the way through. Here is Soul Bossa Nova by Quincy Jones. I'll be back next week. Paul and Patrick will probably be back next week as well. Although I am lining up, I'm trying to get hold of a couple of people that I've never spoken to before. One on the sort of common law court thing, which I think is important. And may well be the route that we've got to, it probably is the route, and this to do with the status that we've got to look at, simplify, or find anything where we can galvanize one another to act and to do things, and not to simply be men of leisure, although it's very nice. Brilliant. So until next week, have a cracking week, everyone. Here's Quincy Jones, and have fun, enjoy this. See you in 1 week's time. Bye for now.